very importantly, you don't get the right results, you can drop quite quickly. And we're now sort of ending into the last, really, probably about 5-6 weeks worth of international rugby for the end of the year, before the Rugby World Cup draw, where we will see the teams that have been selected and qualified, and where they'll go into the pools, which is going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, these are the permutations for this weekend. And basically, South Africa will only surrender top spot if they lose. So, very importantly, anything besides a loss tomorrow, and we will stay number 1 in the world because of that victory over the All Blacks away by that margin, and by the fact that we were lower than we have now gone to a decent lead on them, which is really, really cool and very exciting from that regard, because it gives us a bit of a buffer. The problem is we are playing, some really top teams at the end of the year, and lots of opportunity for them to sort of take the spot back. But important that we keep the momentum. Now, unfortunately, we aren't able to gain or improve their rating because because they're not basically ranked high enough for playing at home, the likes of that. It is still not possible for Victoria's New Zealand to catch us, however, which is really good. So even if, we win by 1 point, if we draw, if we win by 35 points, and it doesn't matter what what New Zealand do, they cannot catch the Boks. However, the most the All Blacks can gain for winning the Bledisloe Cup encounter with Australia is 0.26 rating points. And they are 2.52 points behind the Springboks. So they can't get anywhere close to us, to be honest. So there's actually more jeopardy, really, for New Zealand, who can drop below France and England, and will be a record-equaling low of 5th for them if they are beating. While a defeat by more than 15 points will see the Wallabies become the higher-ranked sides of the two sides, and New Zealand could go down to their worst-ever ranking of 6th. I mean, how much of a disaster they were first a month ago, and they could go down to 6th if they lose tomorrow, which maybe shows you how volatile really the world rankings are. I think that's probably the biggest thing people have an issue with, is that it's far too easy for you to have one bad result and to sort of tumble down the rankings versus many good results. The Boks, for example, losing to the Wallabies, and that was about 9 or 10 games in a row they'd won, and all of a sudden you crash out and you're down to 3rd, for example, which I think is valid. I think there needs to be far more weighting to previous performances and momentum, for example. I don't think it should be a simple, you lost to 5th, therefore you dropped this many points. There needs to be a way of taking into consideration your previous results, your last 5. A bit like a golf handicap, I suppose, in terms of having that buffer of you've beaten these sort of teams before, you've created a bit of historical weighting. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's the number 1 side in the world, but you've got to be able to earn that over a length of time, and not just be able to go on a 2-3 match streak and all of a sudden you're number 1 in the world, come to the end of the year, and you get that number 1 seeding. In terms of Australia, they've only ever been ranked above New Zealand for 1 week since the rankings began in October 2003. So it'll be a big opportunity for Joe Schmidt's men to make a bit of history over there. And they beat them by 12 points in the World Cup semi-finals. It's such a marginal defeat, combined with a win for Argentina and South Africa, would see New Zealand slip a further place to 7th, and outside what will be the band 1 for the Men's World Cup. So all of a sudden, if the All Blacks were to be at 7th, they would be in band 2 in the rankings or in the draw at the end of the year. So this is kind of where, it's very unlikely, but this is where the jeopardy comes. Because if you don't pitch up and you don't get these results, you could find yourselves in a very precarious place come the draw in December. The most that Australia go up to is to 2 places to 5th. They would need to win by more than 15 points, and Argentina not to match that margin. So to be fair, I think that Australia win could be on the cards. At Eden Park, difficult, but I think that they're basically relying on us beating Argentina. They could try and make some gains on Argentina. Argentina are too far behind England to claim 5th place, even if they win well in Durban, win by meaning by more than 15 points. Elsewhere, Chile must beat Samoa by more than 15 points in their World Cup 2027 qualifier to improve on 20th, and that would be a scenario that would lift them up to a new high of 17th. And I loved watching Chile at the World Cup. They were a very cool team to watch, to be honest. And just to be able to watch a team like Chile at the World Cup, when are you ever going to be able to do that again? It was very, very cool. Los Condores were on course to win by that margin and overtake Mono Samoa in the rankings after establishing a 32 points 13 lead in the first leg of the South American Pacific playoff in the Salt Lake City last weekend, until Samoa fought back to earn a 32-all draw. Samoa will climb above Spain to 14th if they secure a win that confirms their place as the 23rd qualifier for Australia 2027. However, Chile cannot slip from 20th, even with a heavy loss to Manu Samoa, and Turkey, also actually the lowest ranked team in action this weekend, in 85th if they win their opening Rugby Europe Men's Conference 2025-26 fixture against Ukraine by more than 15 points to climb the rankings. So a bit of interesting European rugby happening over there. Turkey will then go to up to 79th, for example. You got Ukraine, who can't improve on 52nd, in case you wondered. But this basically sort of shows you what the rankings will become. So if New Zealand win by more than 15 points, New Zealand will go up to 89.28 and Australia 83.67. So this is where you can kind of get your calculations, really. If we win by... We're 91.62, regardless of where, if we win by how many margins, we will stay at 91.62. Argentina, 84.40, wouldn't change, even if we win by more than 15 points or less. However, if there's a draw, Argentina will gain some ranking points. We will lose some ranking points, but we're not losing number one ranking spot. If they win by 15 points or less, they have to go down to 89.62, and that's all of a sudden where we can go slip down the rankings itself, but very unlikely, very unlikely. So those are all sort of the different permutations. Andrew Piatti, by the way, will take charge at Eden Park. That kickoff is about 7 o'clock South African Standard Time. And then in terms of the South African game, all these wonderful little stats over here. Angus Gardner will be in the middle for that, and he's had 53 tests, very experienced referee. And if you look at the head-to-head stats, for example, between South Africa and Argentina, they really do favor us. So, we keep trying to give Argentina a chance and kind of try to create this idea that they are at side capable of the Springboks, which they are, but it is unlikely. We are very much the favorites, and we can't shy away from that tag. You have to be able to learn to embrace it. You have to be able to ride with it and go on and get results whilst being considered the best team out there. Because I think that's something that maybe we've struggled with in the past, and we need to get away from that continuous underdog mentality, because we're not underdogs. We are the number one team in the world. We've got to embrace that, and we've got to make sure that is very, very intrinsic in our belief. What do you predict the rankings becoming come Monday? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll chat to you soon. Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Sports. And I think a lot of South African fans still absolutely reeling from the win yesterday. We actually don't even know what to do with ourselves. One of the most impressive Springbok performances ever. And a few weeks after, Rassie Russ was kind of being written off. A lot of these players being written off. The coaching staff being written off. Jerry Flannery, for example, under fire. Tony Brown, under fire. And it just shows you how we can't be too reactive, because we go back to that loss against Australia and everyone talking about the fact that it was brewing, that the Boks weren't playing well. This was the end, basically. We've got to bring Jacques Nienaber back. Even after last week, everybody's saying that our defense is an absolute disaster. And then we rock up yesterday with the rotated side, a very young and inexperienced backline that hadn't played a lot of rugby together, brand new combinations, a brand new back three, a brand new, I'm pretty sure it's actually the first time Kubas Ranak and Satchifama Gomezulu started together, a brand new center pairing, a brand new lock pairing, and we got a job done. And not did we get a job done, we absolutely annihilated an All Black side, which everybody was saying was getting back to their best, and all of a sudden now saying looks very, very average. And I think several things can be true at the same time. We have not been maybe at our top of our game this past few games, for example. But again, we spoke about the fact that there's been an element of squad building, and inconsistency can come with that in terms of understanding exactly where players are, and you kind of have to sort of try a combination of the likes of that. But yesterday was a culmination of a coach coaching team that backs their players 100% and are not going to respond to the criticism and the suggestions and everything that's coming out of, other media, other, journalists, other pundits and likes of that. They're going to do their own thing and they're going to back themselves. And it was an incredible performance. And they can be very smug to a certain degree in the fact that they're original, as kind of, well, that's the end of, the World Cup sort of cycle and the likes of that. And a lot of also people were commenting the fact that they weren't trying enough new players. They weren't preparing for 2027. And maybe we didn't have the depth we talked about. But yesterday, I think, proved a lot of those fallacies wrong. And I think at the end of the day, rugby's become far more volatile than it was a few years ago. There are not that big sort of margins, in terms of the gaps between teams. And if you're off your game, you can get beaten. And similarly, yesterday, the All Blacks were off their game, but we were sensational. And I think what we saw was a lot of new players taking the opportunities, but also a lot of old players proving that they can still do the business. And when you think about the players that weren't involved yesterday, Bongi Mbonambi, Vincent Koch, Frans Malherbe, Eben Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, Andre Pollard, Faf de Klerk, no Damon Delindi, Jesse Creel, no Kurt Lawrence, no Mapimpi, no Willie LaRue, and we still get that result. And in fact, that's probably the most exciting part of it, is the fact that there were so many players who have always been our go-to sort of players that weren't involved, and look at the performance. And I think if we look now back at the results, the season looks like a very interesting season. I'm going to look a little bit ahead as to what's to come as well, because right now I think it's been a successful season, pending the two big games at the end of the year. I think if you win one of those two, I'll overall be like, you know what, it's actually not been a bad year. But I think this result in particular, with the type of players that performed, was a huge, huge step in the right direction. Before we look at the game stuff, please smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So this is kind of how our season's look. And by the way, remember, we are back to #1 in the world. So we've retaken that mantle. And we are so back, aren't we? But let's have a look at it, shall we? So that Wales game last year was the final game of last year. So we finished on a 45-12 win against Wales. We obviously had the Barbarians game. Doesn't count as a test match. We started things off at Loftus 42-24. A very easy win, but not a great performance. We then actually annihilated them down in Gqeberha. And we kind of thought, well, there we go. That's the Boks team that what we know. Georgia, big win, maybe not quite the performance. I think they were slightly sloppy and only sort of kicked into second gear in the second half. And then the disaster result, that was Australia. 38 points to 22, complete implosion. Some of the best rugby we've ever played, followed by some of the worst rugby we've ever played. And that raised a lot of alarm bells about, well, is this the reality? Have we been holding on to these players for too long? Is the coaching staff going to work? Is Tony Ball, for example, viable? Can we play this game of rugby for full 80 minutes because they look completely gassed out? Then we responded and won a very tight game down in Cape Town, 30 points, 22. And then we lost a tight game at the end of the day at Eden Park. So the big thing was the fact that we haven't lost a back-to-back test in about 2-3 years. I think 2022 was the last time we lost back-to-back tests. So this kind of test match weirdly had the kind of feeling like the last that Wayne's test match in 2018, where Rusty basically said if he didn't win it, he would have been sacked. And it kind of felt a similar kind of thing, the fact that we've had these really poor performances, the selections weren't quite working, a lot of negativity, and it kind of had that feeling that if we were to lose again, that would then be basically 3 losses out of 4 games against top 10 teams in the world this year. Lost against Australia, 2 against New Zealand, and 1 against, all of a sudden it would have been alarm bells would have been ringing. And on the flip side, we now went and probably put in the most impressive international performance of the year. And the historically most impressive performance ever against an All Black side. So that is an all-timer of a result. That's up there with the 57-0 the All Blacks dispatched the Boks in. And again, to do that in New Zealand as well is a huge result. So it's amazing how all of a sudden we've had to turn around and say, well, actually, we are so back. The Boks are back. Look at the likes of Ethan Hooker, Damian Willemse, Kane Moody, all operating. Marnie Liebach, what a game he had. Siya Kolisi back in the mix. Jasper Wiese, how good was he? And all of a sudden, you've got that kind of very good energy. And that'll probably be the main thing we'll talk about tomorrow when we do our live show. All of a sudden, we're probably actually in the driving seat of the Rugby Championship because we do not play an official away game again. We play 1 game at home and a game on the road at neutral territory, which is actually probably more of a home game for us than it is for Argentina in Twickenham. So arguably, we've got an easier run-in than the other teams for the Rugby Championship, playing against an Argentina side, which are very, very good. And I think they've played some of the best rugby in the Rugby Championship, but sit fourth on the log. So in theory, from here, you should be winning the Rugby Championship. Whether we will, time will tell. But at the moment, we are ahead of the All Blacks on points difference because of that incredible result yesterday. Now, the big thing for me is we've got such a cool end of the year looming. We've got Argentina ×2, and then a really cool end of year tour where we have got Japan on the 1st of November, followed by France, followed by Italy, followed by Ireland, followed by Wales. 5 tests, 3 tests where you can rotate and really give other players a chance, and 2 big tests which you have to go out and win. And I mean, if you go 5 from 5 in that end of year tour, we will finish number 1 in the world. There's no doubt about that. And you'll look at this back of this year and be like, it was completely sensational. To have basically played 15 tests and won 13 of them, that would be the stats, of which some big victories in there in terms of score lines and in terms of the opposition beaten, for example. So I think at the moment we've had a very good season, and I'm very happy with where we are, especially on the back of yesterday. It's very easy to be happy where we are. If we can beat one of France or Ireland, I think overall, the year would be pretty much a success, especially given the players that have come through and are playing so well. So, I mean, on a Sunday morning, I'm absolutely buzzing with what we've seen. Big few games ahead of us. We still have 7 tests. We're only basically halfway. We've only just gone past the halfway stage of the test this year. So I think that's also something to keep in mind and to remain very level-headed, the fact that we're only halfway through our season. Lots still to play. Lots of opportunities for players to play. Lots of opportunities for some results. Lots more building to do as well. But let me know how you're feeling as a Boks fan on a Sunday morning. Down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll chat to you in the week. Rassie Erasmus has named his squad for the Argentina test, a 33-man squad, and no real surprises, to be honest, which I think was always kind of going to be the case. I'm almost a bit surprised it's not maybe a wider squad for next week down in Durban, where they might look at potentially giving in a couple of other players an opportunity. But it's very much a squad to see out the rest of the Rugby Championship and to make sure that we win the Rugby Championship. And there are a couple of big players missing, and there aren't any really players returning, to be honest. So it's still very much the core group of what we've expected, minus the players who are injured. And, big frustration with some of the players that are injured, like Alua Diago, for example, who was starting to look a bit more like his best throughout the Rugby Championship. Now will not be available for the next 2 tests. Hopefully, he'll be available for the end of year tour. Jean-Luc Dupré, who was named in the side and then was sick and was supposed to play in the side and then got injured, and he has been ruled out of these 2 Argentina tests. And you kind of start to wonder, when will he ever get the opportunity to put on the green and gold once again? And Apele Fassi also confirmed out of these 2 tests. So if you look at the squad, those are your 33 players that will represent this Springboks in the next 2 games. And, it's pretty straightforward. Let's go through it, shall we? So, in the forwards, we have got Peter Steph du Toit, Thomas du Toit, Eben Etzebeth, Vincent Koch, Siya Kolisi, Wilco Louw, Malcolm Marx, Bongi Mbonambi, Franco Mostert, Oxen Chair, Ruan Nokia, Kwagga Smith, Jacques Nienaber, Marnus van der Merwe, Marco van Staden, Bowen Venter, Jan Hendrik Wessels, and Jasper Wiese. So, Jean-Luc Dupré dropping out, Alua Diago dropping out, nobody really coming in. We don't really need anybody to come in, to be honest. We've got the cover we need. I mean, we've still got, for example, like 4 lock options in an Eben Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, Jacques Nienaber, and Ruan Nokia. So you've got pretty much every single position covered there. The only sort of maybe question mark is that there's only one out-and-out 8th man in the form of Jasper Wiese, but we've already seen Siya Kolisi play there, so he will cover the number 8 jersey. And apart from that, you've got all the cover you need in there as well. In terms of the backs, Damien Delende, Faf de Klerk, Andre Esterhuizen, Sasha Feinberg, Gomezulu, Ethan Hooker, Cheslin Colby, Jesse Creel, Marnie Liebok, Makazole Mapimpi, Kanan Moody, Honjay Pollard, Kobus Reinach, Morne van den Berg, Damian Willemse, and Grant Williams. The big a surprise for me here is Makazole Mapimpi retained whilst Edward van der Merwe is fit. And it goes to show how timing is everything. I personally would have Edward van der Merwe ahead of a Makazole Mapimpi, who doesn't seem to be sort of playing at the moment, doesn't seem to really be within the sort of top 4 or 5 wings at the moment, as hasn't really played at all much this season. And I think that Eden Hooker, the way he played against New Zealand, for example, has become really difficult to, drop him. And I think that he's all of a sudden gotten himself ahead of Makazole Mapimpi, in which case I think there's far more value in having Edel van der Merwe in the squad to be around the squad and to continue training and aligning with them than Mapimpi, who I just don't think gets to the next World Cup. I think that's the only reason that I'm surprised he's there. I just don't see him getting to the next World Cup. And as a result, for me, having an Edel van der Merwe in the squad makes a lot of sense. The only other surprise there is we still got our fourth scrum. Faf de Klerk has been retained. And Morne van den Berg, we haven't seen him. I reckon we might see him in Durban. And I think that it'll be a big opportunity for him to potentially play with a Sasha, for example, maybe play with a Mari Liebach. I do think we'll see him within the next 2 tests, as well as potentially Faf de Klerk, because we look at something like a Vincent Koch. We have not seen Vincent Koch yet in the Rugby Championship. We have not seen Faf de Klerk in the Rugby Championship yet. Bongi Mbonambi, I think he's moved down to almost even 4th choice hooker at the moment, because Jan Ndrivesos is an option at hooker. You've got Marnus van der Merwe, who I really rate. And all of a sudden, you've got to look at, planning-wise, where does Bongi Mbonambi fit in? Is he there for experience and as a safety net, or is he still pushing for the number 1 or 2 spot? And I think what we saw against the All Blacks is a lot of these players taking their opportunities. And as a result, they're becoming quite difficult to leave out. But this coaching staff almost feels like they don't want to phase out some of maybe the older players. Like for me, Vincent Koch, I don't think, he's somebody that we could replace within the squad. I think Mapimpi could potentially be replaced in the squad. I think Mbonambi, for example, doesn't necessarily need to be in the squad. And we're looking apparently about taking about 30-odd players over to New Zealand. So very interesting to sort of see how that all kind of pans out and what the plans are with regards to our next 7 tests, the final 7 tests of the year. And we're going to go into what Rassie Erasmus has to say about the test tour. So in terms of injuries, for example, the immediate ones from the initial squad were Lourt de Jager, Jean-Luc Dupré, and Apre Lefassi. He then lists Gerard Stennekamp, Frans Balherbe, Samrat, and Kurtley Arendse on the injury list. So, for example, somebody like Ntuko Tunu, for example, is fit and available, but not picked. Edel van der Merwe is fit and available, not picked. Asante Ntlabakanye is available, but they're not picking him until he sorts out his sort of whole defense with the doping charges at the moment. So they're basically leaving him for there. So there's 18 forwards and there are 15 backline players. They will meet in Durban and start with the camp. So basically, I think the medical assessments on Thursday, which is obviously tomorrow. There are further 3 players could be added to the group later in the week, with a group up to 30 players set to travel to London. So I think if you look at those 3 players potentially, going through medical assessments, I wonder if an Edel van der Merwe is one of those players, for example, in terms of he's back and played apparently a preseason game for the Sharks. But is he fully fit? Can he be added to the squad? Is he sort of ready there? I'll be interested to see who the other 2 players are. Maybe Ntuko Tunu is one of those players, for example. Or maybe it's it's somebody like even maybe a Lourt de Jager. Maybe they're having a reassessment, for example, with regards to it. But my gut says no. They've announced that he's not playing. They've been ruled out of contention at this stage. So that kind of makes it seem as if they're completely out. So, yeah, in terms of what he's had to say about it, Rassie says, this group of players have been together for over 13 weeks now, and they've shown that they are the right players for this big task against the Pumas. We've chopped and changed our squad a fair bit this season, playing a total of 46 players in our last 8 matches, including the Barbarians match. And by training together almost daily, we are confident these players are these are the players who can give us the best shot to try and retain the title. The fact that the younger and older guys have been training with one another and against one another on the field almost daily really paid off last weekend, and we have no doubt that if we continue showing our faith in these players, we will get the best out of them. Speaking about the injuries, he said, we are blessed with talent in South Africa, so it is sad that as we are for players such as Lourt, Jean-Luc, Apre, Kurtley, and many others, we have capable guys to fill their boots. We are also very fortunate to have many versatile players who can play a few different positions, and they are equally adept in each of them, regardless of what position they play. So, yeah, I'm not worried at the moment. And as I said, I don't think there are too many surprises in the squad. I don't think people are going to be up in arms with regards to the selections that we've made. I don't think people are going to sit there saying, why is this player in? Why is that not player? I think there are players who could potentially come in. I think, Vincent Tuka, for example, wouldn't look amiss in the squad and be really good for him. I still think that he needs to get more exposure. But we've got all the cover we need in the squad, and it kind of ticks all the boxes, which is the main thing at the end of the day.
Was this your best performance in a Boks jersey?
I'm close to.
Yeah.
This was a very good performance. Firstly, I wanted to give thanks to our Lord, Jesus Christ. And then secondly, this performance was for Bevan Fortuin tonight, as well as Coach Rassi. He's been taking a lot of heat, and we know that as a group, and I myself know that as a player. Him backing me to play a different role tonight in a massive test match. Same to the coaching staff, everyone. I think you saw a very positive Springbok side out there. So thank you to the coaches for coaching us. Thank you for the players for stepping up and believing in the plan. I'm just really, really happy with that performance myself individually. I can't do it with the rest of the boys, so they put in a massive effort as well. I thought Jasper was outstanding, not just singling a lot guys, but Peter Steph was there, a whole pack. It was just really a super strong performance from the team.
Just talk us through the character you guys showed. I mean, in the first half, there were 3 backline subs because of injuries, and still there was the second half performance.
Yeah, we told each other, we went for coffee as the backline on Friday after the captain's run, and we told each other, listen, no matter what, we are going to get ourselves into battles no matter what, and if it is so that you play 20 minutes or 40 minutes and you go off, we're going to give you everything. And even tonight, sad to see the boys. Fassi, I hope he's okay, and then Sasha as well with the head knock, with the amount of work that he put in to get the team on the right mindset. We just told each other that we're gonna put everything on the line, and we did.
Where do you rate this one from a Bok perspective? It is a record when you guys aren't chasing records, just but where do you rate this particular one, especially in New Zealand?
I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but I think this is up there close to a World Cup final. I think obviously getting the win at Eden Park would have been the one, but again, 3 in a row now at Wellington. This is a big one. This is a really, really big one for us.
Damien, first off, congratulations. What an incredible performance out there. It's something that has left a lot of people who are watching it absolutely stunned. I'd like to know, at what point did you guys know that you had it?
I would say that the scrum that we had, I'm not sure if it was our ball or their ball where we scrummed them. I think that was a big turning point in the game. But then yet again, I thought when they in the 60-minute they scrummed us, and I thought that could be also a big momentum swinging. But I think that was a really moment that we thought that we've got them now. And then I think we scored after that, or soon after that, when we made it 24. With New Zealand, you can never tell when they're done and out. Credit to our boys. I think everyone just kept on playing right until the end and looked for opportunity. Yeah.
You talk about how momentous this is for you guys. Are you aware of just how momentous it is in the other direction for the All Blacks?
I can't really speak on the All Blacks. I can speak on us. We improved from last week, and that's what we wanted to do and rectify. And we rectified some of those errors. Still a few stuff that we didn't quite get right. I think All Blacks could have capitalised on. As I said, strong coaching performance, strong team performance. So high fives to everyone around.
Just talk us through Mani. Mani's often been the one player who's come in for criticism for even if he sneezes on the field. He's been a key part of the 2 big wins against All Blacks. But just talk us through what he put up today, especially when Sasha came off injury.
No, that boy knows pressure. When he started that penalty kick, and they were starting to boo and giving him a little bit of slack there, and he kicked that, I knew he's right in the game. And I just love playing with him. The rest of the team loves playing with him. Sometimes he doesn't get it right. Sometimes he gets it right more than often. So, I'm stoked for him also to get a very good run. From here we can only get better.
This is just again show that you can never write off the Springboks. Even in New Zealand.
Yeah, that's what we said to each other. We said we are the Springboks, and let's put some pride back into the Springbok. And we've come under a lot of slack in the past few weeks, and I think that's put a little bit of pressure on us. And got us a little bit stiff, and we forgot to go out and express ourselves and play the Springbok way and the DNA that we know. And tonight we said we're going to put some respect on the Springbok name again, and ourselves, our names as well. And as I said, we played for Coach Rassie, we played for Bevan Fortuin tonight, and we played for each other ultimately, and obviously for South Africa. So yeah, that was a key message for us.
So talking of coaches, just talk us through the amount of work that you guys are putting in with Zwanile Stick, Felix Jones, and Tony Brown, because you could, especially the broken play and with the kicking game, you could see the collective hand from the coaches and how much work they put in.
Yeah, this week we tweaked a few things. I don't want to get into too much detail, but as I said, the coaches really brainstormed and came up with solid solutions, stuff that we as a team bought into, and you could see that tonight we were really dialed in. Everyone knew their job and their roles. And as I said, the 22-meter entries were going to be a thing on media the other day, and we were very clinical and dialed in. So very happy.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
33. See, I started it. Just in case.
I won't tell if you won't tell.
Come in.
And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. It is Heritage Day, people, and welcome to our Heritage Day stream. We've got lots to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Boks team, mostly, as well as the URC coming up, having a look at some of the fixtures, having a look at what's also developing. We're going to have our official URC preview coming out tomorrow, having a look at a particular focus for the South African teams, and we will also have profiles of the four specific South African teams, dedicated profiles in terms of the business they have done, bringing players in, getting players out, kind of how the squad is shaping up, a brand new coach for the Bulls in the form of Johan Ackerman, and lots of new players for the likes of Stormers, for example, in particular, who have recruited very, very well in the off-season. And then, obviously, we have a team announcement from yesterday. Rassie Erasmus making just a couple of changes to his starting lineup, a few changes to the overall 23. And we're going to have a look at how we did yesterday with our My Picks prediction. We're going to look at the scoring, for example, because we got 24 points out of a possible 32. So, yeah, work to be done there. And we've got 12 correct players in their correct positions, in fairness, but did get 3 wrong. So we'll look at what happened there. And I want to know if you guys did your predictions yesterday, how you guys did. And, yeah, I actually it didn't end up submitting a prediction because things got away to yesterday, so I need to go see what you guys did. And then we're going to have a look at a little bit at some of the leagues that we have created on mypicks.app, which is the official platform that we are launching to try and really up the engagement and give you guys a tool to make watching games, getting involved in the game a little bit more exciting. It's also the tool we use to do player ratings and the likes of that. And we can do player ratings for absolutely any game of the URC, for example. You can go rate the players, rate the Sharks players, all that kind of vibes as well. So very excited to see if we can get people to start going and rate, like Stormers supporters clubs, for example. You can go rate the Stormers players after their games and the likes over there. So people, we've got a poll running in the comments asking, will the Springboks get a bonus point win versus Argentina? Go and vote in that poll. Let me know how you're feeling about it. Let me know how confident we are about the game against Argentina on Saturday. And tomorrow we'll start getting some early score predictions in. You know, we'll actually bring up the match day tab on my picks and have a look at exactly what some of the score predictions are going to be. Let's have a look at the team, shall we? And actually, before we go to that, if you, by the way, were part of the stream on yesterday morning, we predicted our Springbok team for the game against Argentina. And we basically, what happened is we put up all the players in polls, we voted for every single player, and we basically formulated our 15 from that. Of that 15, we got 12 players right, 12 in their correct positions as well, for a total of 24 points. Basically, how the scoring works is you get a point per correct player, a point if they're in the right position, as well as a perfect 15 bonus point. Now, somebody allegedly got all of those, so we're still waiting to confirm if that is the case. And they did get 32 out of 32. I'll be very impressed if they got the Moy van den Berg selection, for example, which is one of the more difficult ones to do. But basically, this is how the scoring works. So you can see over there, we got Oxenchair right, we got Malcolm Marks wrong. Right, the ones we got wrong were Thomas de Toy. We predicted Grant Williams and Kubas Reinach starting, and we predicted Andre Esterhuizen to start, and it is Damien Delendy. So you can see that's how the whole sort of scoring system works. So come Monday next week, I want to see I want to have over 100 people predicting this team for Argentina. And then in November, we're going to have a lot of fun with this. And we're busy working on some big prize money for somebody who does predict, 15 out of 50. It does get that bonus point. So those are some of the things that are coming up over there with regards to my picks. So right now, go and create a profile on my picks. Let me know if you've joined our leagues, for example, and get involved. Get involved, because this is, as mentioned yesterday, this is a platform we've developed to really broaden your experience with the channel. And I'm really excited to see how we can continue building all of this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And so people, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. And if you'd like to get a little animation like this, that was Sean Johnson yesterday, please do become a member. It is the pinned comment in the chat. And if you'd like to feature in Rusty's Coach's Corner, please do consider sending a super chat. Big shout out to everybody that has over the last few weeks. It's actually been our best month ever for super chats, which is because you guys have been really getting involved and supporting the channel, and really do appreciate all of that. Let's have a look at the team, shall we? And how it is shaping up, because it's a pretty predictable team in terms of staying with consistency. And I think that's a very, very positive thing. We've tried a lot of things over the past few months with regards to team selections, and at times they've actually criticized Rusty and his coaches for not being consistent enough, for having all these different teams all the time, and not backing players who have played well in the next game and the likes of that, and maybe making too much rotation in the name of building depth. And I think that there's always that balance, isn't it? It's always that balance between building depth and too much experimentation. And I think that's where it's a very tricky balance. And it's difficult to say if you've got it right or wrong until you kind of get to the end of the year and look back to the season as a whole. I think in general, we've done it reasonably well. I think maybe we could have put a better side out for that first test against the All Blacks, with a couple of players who I think could have made a big difference. I don't think necessarily we got it completely wrong, but I do think there could have been a couple of changes to that first side, Eden Park, which might have made a big difference. And I think what we saw in the second test is that there are certain players who are very hungry to contribute, that are in great form, and you've got to keep playing them to a certain degree. You've got to keep riding the wave of form, because form is temporary. Class is permanent, form is temporary. So, for example, like something like Kane Moody, he's playing really well in the number 13 jersey. Now, he's also struggled in the last year in that number 13 jersey. He's also struggled on wing, but he's now in a bit of a confidence phase, and you've got to give him those games while he's playing well to keep building that kind of momentum. Same as Damien Willemse, after a man in the match performance. I don't think he was always going to, but you've got to play him in the next game. You've got to ride that form that he's getting back into, and get him back to playing some of his best rugby. Good morning, Mikey Larry. Welcome to the chat. And as I said, please do continue to vote on the poll here, people. Interesting that less than 90% of people reckon that we're going to get a bonus point win against Argentina. So there is a reasonably large proportion that reckons that we might not be able to pull it off. But let's have a look at this team, shall we? So I think it's a great team. And I think the question we're asking is, how close is this to our strongest 23? And I think it's relatively close, to be honest. I think it's a lot closer than we might actually genuinely think. I think that players that come in here, if everybody is fit, is Frans Beherbe in the number 3 jersey, but I think Volkov off the bench remains. I think that is the only change that I'd make to this pack to make it our strongest pack right now. I think Ruan Nokia has proved that he is in our strongest starting 8, And I think that Jasper Wiese proved as well that he's our number 1 8th man. There is room for Cameron Honacore maybe down the line to really push him and potentially vie for that spot. But I think right now, Jasper Wiese has that jersey on lockdown. If we look at the back line, I think Damien Willemse for me still remains our first choice 15. To be honest, and that's nothing against that player Fassi. I just think Damien Willemse has a higher threshold. And I think if they both play to their best abilities, I think Damien Willemse is a better player. I think that we probably go Kurtley Arendse in the number 11 or the number 14 and move Shares and Colby. So at the moment, we've got Frans Beherbe, who probably gets into that starting 15 if this was like a World Cup final. We've only got Kurtley Arendse, who probably goes into that number 11 jersey. You probably go Creel right now, but I think there's a big case for Kane Moody the way he's playing. So I'm going to go 2.5 at the moment. 19 combination. I tell you what, if you want Grant Williams coming off the bench, I think Kobus Reinach is probably our locked-on starter right now. And then it's a big question mark at 10, isn't it? I think World Cup final, you probably have Pollard, but with the way we're trying to play, I do think they are trying to make sure, trying to get Sash to be our number 1. So I think we are about 3 to 4 players off what would be our best 15 we could put out in a World Cup final situation. In terms of the bench, I think that in a year's time, I think that Janine Wessels could genuinely be our bomb squad hooker. Maybe Marnus van der Merwe makes a bit of a push, but I think he could generally be our bomb squad hooker. So I'm not necessarily saying that Bongi is our strongest there. So I think Janine Wessels is potentially there. Bowen Venter would probably drop out for Gerard Steenekamp. So that's one change you'd probably make. I think Wilco Low would remain. I think Arke Snyman would remain. I think Kwaka Smith would remain. I think you'd probably have a Grant Williams in for Moyne van der Berg. And then you'd probably have a Andre Pollard as an insurance policy if you are going to back Sasha ahead of a Mani Liebach. Although having said that, the way Mani Liebach played at Wellington, that could also change. My point is, on the 23, I think we are about 5 players, question marks, away from what potentially could be our strongest team we can put out. And that's exciting because it means that our Project 2027 World Cup is really starting to take shape. We're really starting to identify and understand which players make our best side, which players are going to be involved, and which players we need to start giving game time, and combinations we need to start building the likes of that. K3S says, happy Friday from Edinburgh. Durban has not always been a happy place for the Boks, but if this team is going to be compared with the great All Blacks teams, we need to believe the boys can get the W and bonus point. Completely spot on, as always, K3A, one of our Forever Sports members and one of our constants in the chat. It is Friday, and how are you celebrating Friday? Because I am going to back-to-back bras. How's that? I might be the Heritage Day GOAT because I'm going from one bra to another bra, and I hope they're coordinated because I need to have different selections at these different bras. I need to have different bra brookies at the different bras. I need to have a different meat selection. I need different starch selections. I need to whack it all. We've got to make sure that the potato baker is operating at one and maybe a potato salad or something at the other. The salads need to be slightly different, I need to have different meat options. So, yeah, I hope they've coordinated. But, Joe, the Heritage Day GOAT is going to be tucking into a lot of Braai Vleis today, which is going to be a lot of fun. So let me know how you guys are celebrating Braai Day down in the comments. Let me know if the beers... It's just a miserable day in Joburg is the only problem. It's not a particularly nice day for Braai Day. It's just, the weather just can never play ball, can it? Absolutely ridiculous. Braai Day, and it comes out with this crappy weather. I mean, hopefully it'll burn away a little bit later, but it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be overcast. And in fact, we're supposed to even have rain potentially today and tomorrow. So not ideal. But how are you guys spending Braai Day? Let me know in the comments below, and keep voting on that poll. As I said, if you'd like to feature in the Rusty's Coaches Corner, please do consider sending a super chat. And if you'd like to become a member, it is the pinned comment over there. In terms of the selection, in terms of what excites me, I think the Damien Day Lindy, Kane and Moody selection as a combination is an interesting one. And I think that it'll be very interesting to sort of see moving forward how much we sort of tweak our centers versus how much we kind of stick to combinations. Like for example, Damien Day Lindy and JC Creel are a pretty locked on combination. They understand each other. They played the most capped Springbok center pairing ever. But now we've got new faces in the forms of a Kane Moody. I think Andre Esterhuizen's got a much bigger role than he did a couple of years ago because he's just playing so well. So you got to try and bring him in. And then Damian Williams has also made a genuine push for that centre position with the way he performed at Wellington before he went to move full back. So there's a lot going on in the centres at the moment. I also think that Ethan Hooker has another opportunity to start really cementing himself. I think it was always interesting that they kept him in all these different squads, but he wasn't getting game time. And then all of a sudden gets back to start against the All Blacks. And I don't know if that was basically a ploy by Rassie Erasmus to sort of not give him enough information and then release a player that is maybe a bit of an unknown factor. And it really did pay out because he played tremendously well. But you've also got players like an Evel van der Merwe, for example, and all of a sudden he's been pushed aside to accommodate a Ethan Hooker, and that's an interesting move in itself. So I think that, other big selections, Eben Etzebeth, Ruan Nokia, I think that's probably our strongest lock combination right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to basically keep developing and what the other replacements are going to be, other lock combinations could be. And I think that we might start seeing, a Lord Diago, Arcus Neyman combination, maybe moving forward. And we might see a Arcus Neyman Frank Monster combination. Are we going to see Salmura come back into the mix at a time? But yeah, so Mikey Larry says, raining here in PE as well, but we're going to braai. You have to braai. K3A says, it's 6 degrees here at the moment, 16 degrees later, but the sun is out and it's not predicted to rain. Who knows It's Scotland. And Dorian says, great weather for Friday here in Cape Town. Well, there we go. At least Cape Town's enjoying the weather. Boks by 20 says SVG. And Varda says, nice quiet day at work here in Zim today with SA being on holiday. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, have a beer for the SA lads. And enjoy Heritage Day, people. I mean, it is... Heritage Day is basically a celebration of what makes South Africa, and that is our diversity. And so it's so appropriate that we're talking about the Springboks on Heritage Day, because it is that diversity, there's different cultures, the different ways of life down in South Africa that makes South Africa so unique. You know, it is the thousands of different official languages we have, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and I love the fact that, you know, National Bra Day has just become such a big thing. And now everyone's flocking out and buying coals and wood and all the different braai flags. It's fantastic. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of braai. I'm going to have 2 of them today, as mentioned. So, got to buckle up. I need to actually probably go for a run and create a bit more room for some food over there. But yeah, we've still got the poll running. And I want to have a look at what you guys have all entered in terms of the leagues. Because... yesterday, we posted all the different My Picks leagues, and we've seen, I think it was 58 of you guys signed up for My Picks. And there's still room for a lot of people to get involved in the leagues over here. So if we go have a look at what's cooking over there. Hang on, we need to resize that slightly. There we go. So there's our leagues that we have created so far. And these are public leagues, by the way. So you can go and create any of these, join any of these leagues. So this over here is the SAURC Conference, which is basically only the South African teams. And there is currently, it's actually a bit more than 9 members. But there's basically 2 leagues to go and join. I'm going to drop the link to it now. And I want you to go and join potentially the SAURC Conference League, which means you only have to predict those 2 scores, as well as the URC League in general, which is the General URC League. If you haven't already, make sure you go and join our Boks Score Rugby Championship League and get involved in the other ones. So you've got lots of different leagues over here, and there's also lots of people who are creating their own leagues, which is really cool. So you can see those are forever sports leagues. Then you've got the general leagues, which are My Picks leagues. That's somebody creating their own league, for example. And these are all the public leagues. If you join a private league, it won't show up here. But if you want to join create a public league and get more people involved, then you can. You can. And then you can go to My Leagues and have a look at the leagues there. And we can go look at the URC conference. So basically, this is the URC Conference League. And those are the people involved. You can see there's me. There's me, little Stevie P involved. But this is our community one. And basically all you got to do is go and predict the scores for the different South African games this weekend. It's that simple. It really is that simple. To go and predict all the South African fixtures. So you've got to go predict Stormers versus Leinster, for example. Glasgow versus Sharks. Bulls versus Ospreys. And Cardiff versus the Lions. Make those predictions, lock them in, and see if you can meet. But people, I need to get these leagues up here. We need to get those numbers up. I want to see 100 members in that URC league by the end of the week, and I think we can do it. We're gonna go up to 1,000 members, 1,000 players, and that's because we are Creator Plus. If you have got a basic membership, you've got a cap on your leagues, but you can upgrade. It's a nominal amount as well, so it's really not a lot to get involved in those leagues over there. So people, I need you guys to get involved in My Picks. We, as I said, we had 58 people that signed up. So to answer your question, Mike Larry, I'm actually going to bring up a full screen. I mean, let's go through My Picks and show everybody what they're getting involved in, because I think that it's going to be a tremendous amount of fun. This is My Picks, okay? So basically, go to the dashboard. My Picks is a all-inclusive sort of prediction and rating system, where you can do things like rate players after games, where you can predict scores, and you can predict teams. So, for example, as we saw earlier, we went and predicted our Springbok team, and it scored, and how many points. And you've got leagues for that as well. So you can then go up against your mates and see how well you can try and guess Rassie Erasmus's team. You can do the same thing for URC, for example. We've got the Premiership. We've got lots of different leagues. So these are all the different matches, for example. Then you can also predict the score. And the nice thing is, is that we can go lock in a score. So let's say we need a bonus point win. So let's say we're going to get 31. I'm going to give Pumas 14 points. We can lock in our picks. Because I'm a premium user, I can actually edit that. And that's the reason we're going to do that. But over here, this is what's really fun, is it shows you that some people have already done their predictions, and the average prediction is currently 35 points to 16. 97% of people have predicted a Springboks win, and 3% have predicted a draw, which is quite interesting. So basically over here, you can go and predict the score, and then again, it'll score your predictions, and you've got a whole tab over here, basically, which shows you all the predictions you need to do and what's available and stuff like that. And it also, in your different, some of your things, is it shows you your stats in terms of how your prediction stats always look like. Yeah, we go. Here's a performance overview. So it shows you all your different predictions there, for example. So, for example, using the Forever Sports community profile that we've made 5 predictions so far. We've earned 39 points. We haven't done player ratings yet. We haven't done any teams yet, but it shows you all those stats as well. And it's got all the different sort of predictions and stuff like that you've made. It's a lot of fun. And basically, for example, if you go to a match day, so let's go to the Bok game on Saturday, there's a whole bunch of different stuff to it. So there's the main tab where you can see we've done our score prediction. We can go and predict the Argentina team as well. So we can go predict that. Over here, it's going to pull through a whole lot of content. So the more content that starts to add, including highlights, for example, of the game itself. And then there's our score prediction. On the day itself, it'll actually create a timeline with all the different stats, all the different match events over here, as well as some of the stats overview. On the day, it'll populate the lineups. So it'll show you what the lineups are for the 2 different teams. And after the game, it'll populate ratings, where you can basically go to every single one of the players, give them a rating between 1 and 10, and actually, and I'll check it out now, and it's also got stats. But the big thing is, you can actually, for example, for your ratings and your predictions, so let's go and do the Argentina prediction, for example. This is, I think, what I'm really excited about, is you can predict. So what you can actually do over here is you can load the previous team to make things a little bit easier. So now we can kind of give an idea of what the Argentina side looks like, and you can see there, that's the Argentina side. And if you're very happy with that side and you want to sort of lock that in, let's make one change. Let's say Santiago Carreras out and Thomas Albanor's in. Okay, cool. So we made one change there. You can then lock in your picks over there, and then you can actually go press share team, and it generates a graphic with your name over here. So this is the Forever Sports community tab, but it can say Mikey Larry, for example, and they can say your team prediction, your starting 15 that you have predicted. And if you've done your score prediction, it also gives you score prediction over here. And then you can share this. You can download this. You can email this. You can share it with your mates. You can WhatsApp it. And so all your rugby groups, I know a lot of you guys are on rugby groups. That's what I want to see. On your rugby groups, I want to see you guys dropping these predictions, dropping your player ratings. I think that's, for me, it does the exact same thing. So when you do the player ratings, you go back and you can you rate all the different players. And again, you can generate an image which has your rating, what you gave every single player between 1 and 10, as well as the average fan rating, as well as what your man of the match is, and the score. And you can, again, share it in all your different rugby groups, share it in your Super Brew groups and the likes of that. You know, we need to get you guys all on the system because it's so much fun. It's so powerful, and it's going to really up the ante for what we do as Forever Sports. So yeah, I'm really excited to launch it, and we've had a big uptake so far, close on 200 users, despite only having really pushed it once or twice. And we're going to try and get that to 1,000 users by the end of the week. I think we can do it, to be honest, but we need your guys' help. Because at the end of the day, there are 30-odd people watching. If you guys all go sign up, and if you guys all refer 2 people, that's almost 100 people in just today. So if you're not on it, it is mypicks.app. And we need you guys to get involved in it. I'm going to drop some of the tabs to the different leagues over here. So this is the URC League for SA Conference. I'm going to drop that in the comments. And I'm also going to drop the... I think this is the... I'm going to drop the general URC League as well, which is this one, I think. No, it's not. Okay, I'll drop that in a little bit. But basically, yeah. So the first one I've just dropped there, that is the URC League for the SA Conference, which means you're only predicting the South African teams. To make my life a little bit easier. Because I think that's always the biggest problem, isn't it? Sometimes you're a casual fan, and all of a sudden you've been thrown into a URC Prediction League, and you've got no idea, nor do you care what the score is between Glasgow and Zebre. Well, you don't have to. These leagues you can actually customize. So when you go and basically create a league, I'll show you. You can go to your leagues over here and create a league, and you can decide what the league name is. So let's say the FS Community, and you can add a description. And then you can decide, do you want to be a score prediction league or a team prediction league? So, for example, if I'm a Lions fan, I can create a league with my Lions fans, and I can make a private thing, and I can select a sport, a competition. So I can go URC, select a season, and then you can actually select a team. So you can go select an individual team, for example, and you can say, right, we're going to do a Lions prediction league. If we go and do a score prediction league, then we can go and decide, do you want to do a all teams league? So do you want to predict scores for all the teams in the United Rugby Championship? Or maybe you just want to do a few, and you can do a Scottish conference. You can do a Ireland conference. You can do just a Lions. You could just do Lions prediction league, for example, if you want to. You could just do a Storms prediction league if you want to. And that for me is a very big thing. So I think there's so many times where you're in all these different leagues and it just becomes too much to do. Whereas, for example, if you're just doing Lions team once a week, that's easy to do. Having to do, predictions for 10 different games, that's more complicated. Now let's have a look at, and I'm going to use my picks to do it as well, because it is URC season, people. It is the kickoff this weekend, and some very interesting fixtures. Very, very interesting fixtures. So let's go have a look, and we're going to use my picks to do it, because we can. Because we can. So these are all the different fixtures. You can see over here, we've got the Prem, which has been loaded, as well as the Rugby Championship. But what you can do is you can filter it. And we can go filter by where we want, URC. And there we go. Those are your URC fixtures for the weekend. So we've got Stormers versus Leinster kicking us off on Friday. What a game that's going to be. By the way, we will be live for that game this weekend. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what that Stormers side's going to look like. Leinster, we're going to do a bit of a preview and see in terms of the players that they've sent down. Jacques Nienaber having signed a new contract. And then we've also got two other 9 o'clock games. Ulster versus Dragons, Glasgow versus Sharks. So 2 South African sides getting involved and getting their campaigns underway on Friday evening. Saturday, then we've got the Bulls versus Ospreys at 2 o'clock. Zebre versus Edinburgh at 4 o'clock. Scarlets versus Munster, 6:30. And the 2 late games, we've got Connacht versus Benetton, and then my boy Lions playing at 9:15. And I'll tell you what, get off to a winning start there, Lions, because that's the problem. We've always had a slow start to the season, and then I've never been able to catch up. So that's what the URC is looking like for this weekend. Pretty exciting. Only 1 home game for the South African, 2 home games for the South African sides, Bulls at home as well as the Stormers. I think we'll see a big turnout for the Stormers on Friday night, which should be quite a lot of fun. And I think we'll see a reasonable turnout for the Bulls ahead of the Boks game as well. We will endeavour to try and do this Bulls game as well. People, we're going to wrap up there. Mikey Larry says, anyways, I don't know about you guys, but Argentina looks like a much better team than Aussies, and they play so well. I don't think we should underestimate them at all. Important game for us. Argentina looked like a good side, but their result and at the end of games, it's just not reflecting the way they're playing. And look, maybe it's a matter of time when that will. So I don't think you can underestimate them, but I also think we have to be very honest about the fact that they are there for the taking, as far as I'm concerned. Because they have been buckling. They have been letting down a lot of good results in being in good positions, and they need to get a lot better at doing that. But people, I've got a Heritage Day to go and enjoy. I've got to go to Bryce to go lighten the likes of that, and we've got a bit more content to sort out for you guys for the rest of the day. So please do smash a like on the video on the way out. Please do subscribe to the channel on the road to 100,000 subscribers. The next mini milestone is to get to 96,000, 97,000. I reckon we can get to 97,000 by the end of this weekend. That is our goal. So please do be part of that. And if we can get to 97,000 by this weekend, maybe 98, 99,000 by the end of next weekend, maybe we can look at that 100K before November. Else we'll get there in November. But I'd really like to get there at the end of the Rugby Championship. That would be my big goal. And we've got to get to another 1,200 to get to that 97,000 this weekend. Do another 1,200, then that's going to be close past 98,000. And then we're just onto the home straight. And I've already said that we're going to put the plaque there. First ever South African rugby YouTuber. Their plaque's going to go over there. And it's all because of you guys and your support. So please do subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys all tomorrow morning. Same. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. Big news in the rugby world, with Jacques Nienaber seemingly confirming that he will not return to the Springboks for the 2027 World Cup, after it was confirmed that he has signed a contract extension with Leinster, which will keep him there until the 2026-2027 season, which means that his contract is now set to finish at the end of June 2027, which means that any sort of linking up with the Boks would be done on the eve of the World Cup and would basically only be able to join the Boks a month, maybe 2 months ahead of the showpiece, and therefore looking ever more unlikely that the former World Cup winning head coach will be next to Rassie Erasmus when the Boks fly out for Australia to try and go for that three-peat. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So, news coming out of Leinster today, and some pretty big news. An open training session, quite a nonchalant way, really, of announcing this kind of news. I mean, a World Cup winning coach signing an extension is quite a big deal. Leinster obviously thinking that maybe it's not as big of a deal. And so basically what happened is that Leo Cullen confirmed that the three coaches have all signed extensions for another year, and that'll finish the 2025-2026 season. Those being Robin McBride, Jacques Nienaber, as well as Tyler Blenendal. And what's I think really quite interesting is the fact that all of them have obviously renewed. But Leo Cullen, for example, no sort of talk about him potentially moving on, which is such a stark comparison to where we were a year ago, where Leinster once again failed to achieve a Champions Cup, for example, which they still didn't do this past season, but also did not win a URC. And a lot of speculation then about Leo Cullen and the future he had at the club, and potentially he might be there was talk about him potentially being moved on. And the one thing that everybody was saying with that Jacques Nienaber, initial appointment is the fact that you now have a World Cup winning head coach in the system, which means that if anything were to happen to a Leo Cullen, for example, and they were to sack him basically like mid-season, Jacques Nienaber, for example, could step in as a head coach, because he's obviously something he's done to pretty good effect, given the fact that he has won a World Cup. So let's go through the press release, and then we'll kind of talk about exactly what it means for the Boks himself, shall we? So, as mentioned, it was at a coaching, or basically an open training session where they met with local school kids, and he confirmed that those three coaches have all signed extensions through to the end of 2026-27. And he's also confirmed that a new position, which is provincial kicking coach, had been created to better align with the work based at UCD with clubs, schools, and the player pathway. And Emmett Farrell, who's the former Leinster out of and currently performance analyst at Leinster, has been appointed to that role and has confirmed that he will continue as this role kicking coach with the senior team at Leinster Rugby. If you're a Leinster fan, that obviously means something to you. If you're not a Leinster fan, probably doesn't mean much to you as well. Now, in terms of what he had to say, Leo Cullen, he said the following. He said, they have all brought tons of relevant experience and different perspective of how we do things. And I think that's hugely important for the development of the group, that we have our voices and ways of operating. He said it's not just around the senior team as well. You see it with our academy players and the work that they do, visiting the clubs and schools and giving freely of their time. And I'm delighted to have them all on board again. So basically talking about on the coaches. So that's pretty much all we've actually had, in all honesty. Now let's talk about what this means. So first of all, again, this does not rule out that there's no chance that Jacques Nienaber, for example, won't be involved in the 2027 World Cup, because he could still join up right before the World Cup. And we've seen, Felix Jones actually originally came in, not long before the World Cup started, due to the very sudden resign of Swayze de Bruin, who basically had a bit of an emotional or mental breakdown, really, with the stress, and had to step away from the game. And as a result, Felix Jones stepped in. However, the thought and the original sort of conversation that a lot of fans were having was that it all lined up very nicely, that he was going to have his contract expire in 2026, which would give him basically a full year and a bit, just shy of 18 months to work with the squad. But basically give him a full year. He would basically finish up Leinster, join the Boks for the beginning of the international season next year, be with them for, the greatest rivalry tour, be with them for the Autumn Nations series, and go into the World Cup. That was the speculation when he signed that contract, which expired a year out from the World Cup, And I think especially if we look back at the last month or two, and lots of conversations about Jerry Flannery, for example, a lot of pressure on him, speaking about whether our defensive systems are good enough. You know, lots of people saying that we need Jacques back, and Jacques was one of the big reasons why we were winning, which is amazing, because if we go back 5 years ago, a lot of people are basically saying it's the wrong choice. Even go back to 2020, 21, 22, for example, a lot of people saying that he wasn't good enough, he wasn't head coach material, and then 2023 happened, and everybody started to realize that he is truly a world-class coach in his own right, and he's not just the Russie buddy. You know, he is a genuinely world-class defense coach, and I think a genuinely world-class head coach. And I still think that this is a bit of an emergency net, because again, if you do lose Leo Cullen in the season, whether it's by, you know, him leaving or you firing him or whatever, you've got someone who can step into that role very, very easily in the form of Jacques Nienaber. And I think that it's a shrewd piece of business from Leinster to get that extension. In terms of the Boks, you know, you're never going to say no to a Jacques Nienaber coming back. You of course, we want him involved. It's a very big coaching team at the moment. Rassie Erasmus has even said it's the biggest coaching team he's ever worked with. And I think at times there might be a case of too many cooks spoiling the broth. You know, I think there is so much feedback coming in from different angles, different approaches, that I think is a massive balancing act. You know, we lost Jacques from the last World Cup, and we lost Felix Jones, and we replaced them with Jerry Flannery, and we brought in Tony Brown, and then we brought in Dwayne Vermeulen, who became joining the coaching staff as a bit of a Moby. He's supposed to be a Moby Union coach, but he's always with the Boks. And we brought in Jaco Paper. We lost 2, we brought in 4, and we then brought back Felix. So this coaching staff has effectively grown by an additional 3 people from what the 2019 or 2023 World Cup was. And as a result, it is a very big coaching staff. And therefore, it'll be difficult to sort of see where Jacques fits in. More than that, defensive systems take time. You know, you can't just arrive and implement a defensive system within a week or 2. It takes time. Same with attacking, actually, any sort of systems, really. Which means that he was always going to have a long time to be able to work. You know, even now, maybe we're starting to see the Jerry Flannery system start to sort of come good, maybe against the All Blacks, and maybe it was a step in the right direction. Because we all remember when Jacques Nienaber and Rassie Erasmus first came in, and we went to the Jacques Nienaber defensive system, and we were porous. We conceded lots of points. And everybody sat there saying, well, this is the problem. You know, he's not good enough. And you know, he's not of the kind of quality. And then we saw some of the big performances, and all of a sudden we saw, hang on, this is actually going to work. And it did work. So you've got to give players and coaches time. And I think it's always been a difficult situation if Jacques were to come in a June just before and have a year to now potentially change the defense system to what Jerry was doing and make it work for the World Cup. Him coming on as a consultancy basis might still work. Maybe he might be able to sort of look at exactly what's kind of being done and be able to give feedback. I still think it becomes a very big coaching team, but you can never say never. The question is, how does this affect the Boks? You know, is this a huge blow? Is this something we can deal with? Do we need him? Do we not need him? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.
And then we'll have Rassie and Sia at the end just sum up in Afrikaans and Xhosa. Did I get it right? Yeah. Thank you. Just what they thought about the game and obviously going forward in the competition. Please note it's a 10-minute media conference, so I am recording it and I'll send out the recording shortly. Thanks, guys. Questions?
Coach, how's it feel that Andy Blacks did the
We've been on the other side where we got 57 away from home, so you know there's no need for us to celebrate too much because the respect we have for them, they've given us shots many times. So you know we're just glad we got 5 points and we're in the mix in the Rugby Championships. Obviously, people are going to talk about the record. Last week they kept the record at Eden Park and they didn't put it into our faces. So. The scoreline is nice, and for the guys to hang in there is nice. It's more for us what we're trying to achieve. So I know what it feels like in that change room on the other side. So yeah, it's nice, but I don't think we have to dwell on that.
Rusty, congratulations on the win. There was a lot of talk this week about your backline, potential of having a new generation feel about it. You obviously empowered and entrusted them with a lot with the response from last week. Can you just talk to what the performance you saw from those young backs and how much they stake their claim to be part of the future of Springboks rugby?
Yeah, I think firstly I must say, and we always try to say this, a couple of realities. It's opposition reality, our reality, and what the world's reality is, and then there's the truth. And the truth were, they had 8 players with less than 10 caps, and we only had 2 with less than 10 caps. So, we always saw it that way. It's that we've been building and giving guys chances at certain stages. And we're very happy with the performances they had, but the way the guys who didn't play this week prepared them for this game, because they played last week against the All Black team who, at one stage, they were really giving us shots. So we're happy to say that we've used 40, I don't know how many players. But yes, guys put up their hands and they showed that they can do it at this stage. So it's nice to know that we had a lot of injuries today in this match. I'm not quite sure what the extent of those injuries are, but it's more that the trust from the older guys who did not play to prepare the younger guys. It's very nice. But New Zealand played also with 8 guys, less than 10 caps. So that was our reality going into this game.
The Boks and yourself got a fair amount of flack the last couple of weeks. Did this team go out tonight to prove a point?
No, not at all. We wanted to get, first of all, it always works like that. The belief in the team is the most important thing. And when you chop and change, and which we have done the whole year, I don't know. I think we're in the mix of 1 or 2 in the world again. So it's a long season, and we've got an Argentinian team that really played well and are young and exuberant, and which we'll face in a couple of weeks of time. But we never do it to prove people wrong. We do it to people keep on believing in us, because we believe in South African. And I'm not saying to be soppy and all wishy-washy. We feel what South Africans do for us, and we reminded ourselves, even after the haka, we had a quick chat about that, that there's hundreds of millions of people back home who trust in us to give our best. And we gave our best, I thought, today. And so no, we never want to prove people wrong. We want them to keep on believing in us.
Congratulations. Actually talking about belief there, you guys obviously have a lot of belief in your side. Did you expect a scoreline like this? I mean, 36-0 in particular in the second half is pretty impressive against any All Blacks.
No, well, we were just focused on the job in hand, and I think where our coaches, I feel, is so good, all our coaching staff, is the freedom that they gave us today, the freedom that they gave to the backs, like shoot your shots and don't be afraid if you make a mistake. But there was a couple of times where the ball went out or it was a knock-on where we had like an overlap. Nobody panicked and we just stuck to our guns. That gives us the kind of freedom, because this was a big game, whether we like it or not, and coach was willing to back the guys that haven't played a lot, and he showed us the belief, and then he just told us we must just keep on believing in each other as a team. And I think that was really important. Like what he said, the guys that didn't play, the pictures they showed us, you become the opposition, in the week. And I think that was really special. And that's what keeps us so tight as a team, is all those guys that don't play, the effort that they put in, and it helped us a lot today.
Again, congratulations with the result. Just talk us through the character and the courage shown by the team with 4 first-half substitutions.
Yeah, we always say, it doesn't matter who plays in the team. We don't panic. And if someone gets hurt, like for me, I was finished by that time. And most people were like, "Oh, why are you taking him? Can't go anymore." But I'm not worried when I go off, because I know when Kwaka comes in, he brings something different to what I have. So that's the trust and the belief amongst each other as a group, because the efforts we put in the weekend training sessions, every guy that's chosen, we all have belief in each other, because we've seen what we can do in training, and our trainings are intense, and this week was different. So yeah, that's where we get it from training.
Rassi, we spoke to Dylan again, also dedicated today's win to the 14. Just talk us through how the team processed his passing, and he's someone you know very, very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, there's many players that I played with, Joost van der Westhuizen and James Small, Ruben Creer, Hannes Strydom, you know, we can Chester, we can mention so many. But then in a week like this, I'm not quite sure the guys would even know Bevan really well or Jan Boland really well. But for me, it was a bit emotional. I mean, we won the kickoff for the first time in 29 years, and Bevan was a boy we signed from SWD. So for me, it was a bit more emotional this the last day. But we didn't talk about that, to be honest. We just said that bring what you come from and where you come from to the party, because that's what.
Sorry.
No problem. So I personally for me it was not a nice day and a half, but I mean we did not as a team, we didn't even talk about that, because you know there's so many people in my era which I played with that's not here anymore, that would have loved to be part of what the guys did today. So yeah, I said afterwards, I did tell them a little bit about Bevan, and I mean Jan Boland and so on. So, but I mean Cornell's gone, and there's so many, and that's what the guys are carrying. Those guys' legacy.
But actually, when you look back at what happened against Australia, from 22-0 down, from 22-0 up to 38-22 defeat, today was 10-7 down at halftime with 8 entries in the first half. Just talk us through this evolution that the team is going through at the moment. Yes, there's still 2 games left in what is a very wide tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke in the change room, we've achieved nothing. You know, we're in the mix for the Rugby Championship, but Australia and New Zealand will sort each other out, and when we have to play a really energetic, well-drilled Argentinian team in a couple of weeks' time. What's your question?
The evolution of the team.
The evolution of the team. I think we're getting better. I think the first 30 minutes we still made a lot of errors. But I think the belief is listen, you can do it, express yourself, don't get like a robot. We don't pick you to be just doing your job and mechanical side of the thing. You are Damien Willemse. I mean, I remember Damien Willemse ran down Caleb Clark in Nelson Mbombela. And I sent him a video last night and said, remember this? And everybody, I mean, Ethan, everybody that played tonight, but it's the guys who's not playing that gives those guys belief. And New Zealand will go through the same, you know. They're going to pick themselves up and understand. Well, they do understand. I can tell them what they must understand or not. But this is most, people always say you must build depth and you must build squad depth. But then some people say, you know, you're taking chances. It's a 24-hour job, keeping confidence. Nowadays with social media and what people say, you have to 24 hours like tell yourself, hey, believe in yourself, believe in your teammates, believe in your coaches, and believe in when you announce a team on a Sunday evening before New Zealand where they smashed us last week. It's a 24-hour job to keep belief and if you want to fall on your own sword, you know, don't start pleasing people. And when you start pleasing just the people in the change room and the South African people, we got to the other side. And yes, our average age, I think, was with Kobus was 35. Our average age was 27 of the back line. The forwards were a bit older. But Elrich is not here, Cameron's not here, Salman's not here, Gerard Steenekamp's not here. You know, Evan did not play. So hopefully we are building and people can see that we're building. But the next game's results is again going to determine where we are really.
Rassie, you told us this week that this team can beat the All Blacks here, but did you think 43-10 would be possible?
As I said, they gave us 57-0, you know, so once you got all, it's nice, it's satisfying. But the reality is tomorrow they'll regroup and Argentina will look at our attack and our scrums and our lineouts, and then it's the next game again. So We're going to enjoy tonight. We're going to flip and definitely enjoy tonight. No doubts, yeah. I will have a good time tonight. But, you know, when we're back on the plane and on land in South Africa, then it's back to reality again. Then we second on the log in the Rugby Championship. I think we're lying pretty well in World Rugby's on the log. But then the next 2 games will determine that again. So, no, New Zealand didn't rub it in our faces last week when they got the Eden Park record and they kept it there. So for us, it's nice to have a winning margin like that, but reality is tomorrow. It's a new day.
It's relatively tight, you know, throughout the first sort of 50, 55 minutes. Did it feel like a big turning point, the line-out steal on their own line and Phillips that goes with the scores?
I think big turns were when we were on the try line and we scored a try and we felt maybe the ball was knocked on by them at the breakdown. That might have been a big turn where we lost belief, but we didn't lose belief there because we were 7-0 up there. And we, you know, you kind of, when you don't capitalize, when you go into the 22, you go, we're again not capitalizing. And I think that was the big chat after the haka and in the change room is that let's fire shots. Eventually it's going to come. And it did come eventually. So you need a few things to go your way for the belief to get there and to click and guys to start believing. And yeah, I think that was a big moment, you're correct.
Okay guys, just for the local media back home, Rassie, I can ask you in Afrikaans, but Sia, I don't know my course. You can ask.
Yeah.
Can you just sum up the game? Kan jy asseblief net vir ons sê wat jy gedink het oor die wedstryd, wat reg gegaan het en wat voor lê in die kompetisie?
Ja, die eerste ding is, is lekker, is baie lekker om New Zealand hier so te wen. Ons het nog nie baie in ons lewe gedoen nie, in my lewe nie. En die eerste ding is die belief of die geloof wat die spanne mekaar het. Dus, in my opinie is dit eerst al 24 uur werk om te bly glo in jouself, want daar soveel opinies. Maar soos ek vir julle gesê het, mense wil nie Suid-Afrikaners verkeerd bewys nie, jy wil hulle aan jou kant hê en mense wil hê hulle moet in jou glo en as jy foute maak kry jy baie kritiek. So ja, die telling is lekker, maar vir ons die belangrikste is dat ons ouens geroteer het, die senior ouens gehelp het om die manne, ons nie baie jong ouens gehad, jong ouens in die span gehad nie. New Zealand het 8 ouens gehad wat minder 10 toetse gespeel het. Ek dink ons het 2 of 3 gehad. So ons het dit nooit in ons werklikheid was dit nooit dat ons vat hierdie groot kans nie. Dis ouens wat al jare saam met ons kom. Damien Willems het al 2 World Cups gewen in British en Irish Lions series. En ek geweet ergens gaan sy dinge bymekaar kom. En toe verloor ons Fassie en ons verloor 'n klomp ouens in die game. Lood het ernstig beseer, Fassie is ernstig beseer. So die groot ding is wat ons uit die game uitvat is nie die telling nie. Is dat ons in die mix is in die Rugby Championship en dat ons alright is in World Rankings met 'n belangrike draai die einde van die jaar en die heel belangrikste is dat Suid-Afrika kan sien ons glo in mekaar en ons kan voel dat Suid-Afrika glo in ons.
No, bekunzima kuleve kuphela and inhloko zethu zonke bezijonge la umphefumulo wethu ubuhlile kancane but besiyazi siyakwazi uzijika izinto and sisebenze kakhulu and khasifunde kakhulu into ezithethwayo paphandle besiconcentrate kule nto besiyenza thina siyi-team and ocoach bethu i-belief abasinike yona especially kula madoda asemva ubaxela uba mabadlale ngehlobo bafuna udlala ngalo and if umuntu wenze iphutha asiliphutha lakhe lezo iphutha le-team yonke I think kuyinto ebalulekileyo nangoku besi-atheka kakhulu khasifumana itribe sabuyimba basikora bona kuqala umphefumulo wethu khanguhle besiyazi izinto ezakwenzeka so sebenze kakhulu and i-team isebenze kakhulu for thina to make sure ubeka umuntu kwindawo right and yeah siyenzile into besifuna uyenza but umsebenzi awukapheli kuninzi into efuneka siyenzile because Argentina iyadlala kakhulu so namhlanje sahlala kakhe sizinjoye kakhe nesigoduka fika kwi South Africa sisebenza siqeshiwe.
Fantastic, thank you very much guys.
And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports for an exciting update on Wednesday, which you probably didn't expect to have. And just as well, because it's a bit of a depth in rugby news, but now we have something ready to sort of pick apart and get excited about. Rassie Erasmus has named his squad for the Argentina test, a 33-man squad, and no real surprises, to be honest, which I think was always kind of going to be the case. I'm almost a bit surprised it's not maybe a wider squad for next week down in Durban, where they might look at potentially giving in a couple of other players an opportunity. But it's very much a squad to see out the rest of the Rugby Championship and to make sure that we win the Rugby Championship. And there are a couple of big players missing, and there aren't any really players returning, to be honest. So it's still very much the core group of what we've expected, minus the players who are injured. And yeah, I mean, big frustration with some of the players that are injured, like Alua Diago, for example, who was starting to look a bit more like his best throughout the Rugby Championship. Now will not be available for the next two tests. Hopefully will be available for the end of year tour. Jean-Luc Dupré, who was named in the side and then was sick and was supposed to play in the side and then got injured, and he has been ruled out of these two Argentina tests. And you kind of start to wonder, when will he ever get the opportunity to put on the green and gold once again? And Apelele Fassi also confirmed out of these two tests. So if you look at the squad, those are your 33 players that will represent this Springboks in the next two games. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Let's go through it, shall we? So in the forwards, we have got Peter Steph Toy, Thomas Toy, Eben Etzebeth, Vincent Koch, Sia Khaleesi, Wilco Low, Malcolm Marks, Bongi Manambi, Franco Mostert, Oxen Chair, Ruan Nokia, Quacha Smith, Jacques Nienaber, Manus van der Merwe, Marco van Staden, Bowen Venter, Jan Hendrik Wessels, and Jasper Wiese. So Jean-Luc Dupré dropping out, Lua Diago dropping out, nobody really coming in. We don't really need anybody to come in, to be honest. We've got the cover we need. I mean, we've still got, for example, like 4 lock options in an Eben Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, Jacques Nienaber, and Ruan Nokia. So you've got pretty much every single position covered there. The only sort of maybe question mark is that there's only one out-and-out 8th man in the form of Jasper Wiese, but we've already seen Sia Khaleesi play there, so he will cover the number 8 jersey. And apart from that, you've got all the cover you need in there as well. In terms of the backs, Damien Delende, Faf de Klerk, Andre Esterhazen, Sasha Feinberg, Gomezulu, Ethan Hooker, Cheslin Colby, Jesse Creel, Marnie Liebok, Makazolo Mapimpi, Kanan Moody, Honjay Pollard, Kobus Reinach, Morne van den Berg, Damian Willemse, and Grant Williams. The big a surprise for me here is Makazolo Mapimpi retained whilst Edward van der Merwe is fit. And it goes to show how timing is everything. I personally would have Edward van der Merwe ahead of a Makazolo Mapimpi, who doesn't seem to be sort of playing at the moment, doesn't seem to really be within the sort of top 4-5 wings at the moment, as you know, hasn't really played at all much this season. And I think that Ethan Hooker, the way he played against New Zealand, for example, has become really difficult to, you know, drop him. And I think that he's all of a sudden gotten himself ahead of Makazolo Mapimpi, in which case I think there's far more value in having Edward van der Merwe in the squad to be around the squad and to continue training and aligning with them than Mapimpi, who I just don't think gets to the next World Cup. I think that's the only reason that I'm surprised he's there. I just don't see him getting to the next World Cup. And as a result, for me, having an Edward van der Merwe in the squad makes a lot of sense. The only other surprise there is we still got our 4 scrum. Faf de Klerk has been retained. And Morne van den Berg, we haven't seen him. I reckon we might see him in Durban. And I think that it'll be a big opportunity for him to potentially play with a Sasha, for example, maybe play with a Marnie Liebok. I do think we'll see him within the next 2 tests, as well as potentially Faf de Klerk, because we look at something like a Vincent Koch. We have not seen Vincent Koch yet in the Rugby Championship. We have not seen Faf de Klerk in the Rugby Championship yet. You know, Bongi Manambi, I think he's moved down to almost even 4th choice hooker at the moment, because Jan Hendrik Wessels is an option at hooker. You've got Manus van der Merwe, who I really rate. And all of a sudden, you've got to look at, you know, planning-wise, where does Bongi Manambi fit in? Is he there for experience and as a safety net, or is he still pushing for the number 1 or 2 spot? You know, and I think what we saw against the All Blacks is a lot of these players taking their opportunities. And as a result, they're becoming quite difficult to leave out. But this coaching staff almost feels like they don't want to phase out some of maybe the older players. Like for me, Vincent Koch, I don't think, you know, he's somebody that we could replace within the squad. I think Mapimpi could potentially be replaced in the squad. I think Madambi, for example, doesn't necessarily need to be in the squad. And we're looking at apparently about taking about 30 odd players over to New Zealand. So very interesting to sort of see how that all kind of pans out and what the plans are with regards to our next 7 tests, the final 7 tests of the year. And we're going to go into what Rassie Erasmus has to say about the test tour. So in terms of injuries, for example, the immediate ones from the initial squad were Lood de Jager, Jean-Luc Dupré, and Après Lefassi. He then lists Gerard Stennekamp, Frans Boerber, Samrat, and Kurt Lawrence on the injury list. So, for example, somebody like an Ntuko Kunu, for example, is fit and available, but not picked. Edel van der Merwe is fit and available, not picked. Asante Ntlabakanye is available, but they're not picking him until he sorts out his sort of whole defense with the doping charges at the moment. So they're basically leaving him for there. So there's 18 forwards and there are 15 backline players. They will meet in Durban and start with the camp. So basically, I think the medical assessments on Thursday, which is obviously tomorrow. There are further 3 players could be added to the group later in the week, with a group up to 30 players set to travel to London. So I think if we look at those 3 players potentially, going through medical assessments, I wonder if an Edel van der Merwe is one of those players, for example, in terms of he's back and played apparently a preseason game for the Sharks, but is he fully fit? Can he be added to the squad? Is he sort of ready there? I'd be interested to see who the other 2 players are. Maybe Ntuko Kunu is one of those players, for example. Or maybe it's it's somebody like even maybe a Lood de Jager. Maybe they're having a reassessment, for example, with regards to it. But my gut says no. They've announced that he's not playing. They've been ruled out of contention at this stage. So that kind of makes it seem as if they're completely out. So, yeah, in terms of what he's had to say about it, Rassie says, this group of players have been together for over 13 weeks now, and they've shown that they are the right players for this big task against the Pumas. We've chopped and changed our squad a fair bit this season, playing a total of 46 players in our last 8 matches, including the Barbarians match. And by training together almost daily, we are confident these players are these are the players who can give us the best shot to try and retain the title. The fact that the younger and older guys have been training with one another and against one another on the field almost daily really paid off last weekend, and we have no doubt that if we continue showing our faith in these players, we will get the best out of them. Speaking about the injuries, he said, we are blessed with talent in South Africa, so it is sad that as we are for players such as Lood, Jean-Luc, Aplele, Kurtley, and many others, we have capable guys to fill their boots. We are also very fortunate to have many versatile players who can play a few different positions, and they are equally adept in each of them, regardless of what position they play. So, yeah, I'm not worried at the moment. And as I said, I don't think there are too many surprises in the squad. I don't think people are going to be up in arms with regards to the selections that we've made. I don't think people are going to sit there saying, why is this player in? Why is that not player? I think there are players who could potentially come in. I think, Vincent Tuka, for example, wouldn't look amiss in the squad and be really good for him. I still think that he needs to get more exposure. But we've got all the cover we need in the squad, and it kind of ticks all the boxes, which is the main thing at the end of the day. So what do you think of the squad? What are your thoughts? Where are we at, for example? I'm going to go through some of the comments now, get your sort of thing. I'm going to ask in the comments as well, are you happy with the squad? And that's my big question. Are you happy with this squad? A simple yes or no. And if you say no, as always, we want to know why. You can't just come in and say, no, I'm not happy. Well, why aren't you happy? Who don't you like in the squad? Who would you like in the squad? I don't like the sitting on the fence. Not sitting on the fence, but the throwing out something like I'm not happy with the squad without giving us any sort of reason as to why. Why. So get your comments in and let me know where you are with all of this and kind of what you're thinking. And I'm just going to refresh this over here, and then you can get to the comments. Also, please, by the way, we are always looking for new members to join the Forever Sports Members Club. It is the pinned comment, so please do consider becoming a member on the road to trying to get to 250 members. We're at about 220 now. Need another 30 members to get to that mark. And if you'd like to feature in the Rassie's Coaches Corner at the bottom there, please do consider sending a super chat. Drop some hot takes, people. Drop some hot takes. And mentioning it over there, the fact that Willie is out of the squad, and I was going to get to that now. I think he'd become a bit sort of surplus to requirements, to be honest. I think that, again, we're looking at injuries. I wonder if Quinn Horn isn't going to be involved in the squad on coming after Thursday, or else we have to wait and see exactly what Willie Leroux is going to have to say and whether he's going to be involved in the squad. So, I don't think there's too many surprises in the squad. Really out, I don't think it's that big of a surprise, in all honesty. I don't think that he is ahead of, for example, a Damian Willemse. And again, we have to wait until Thursday to find out who's going to be additional players to add on to that. My gut says he'll probably be one of them. But you've got a Sasha Famagoma-Zulu who covers 15, for example. A Damian Willemse who covers 15. So that is where we're kind of with that. So let's go through some of the comments and see what we have to say. And Bradley says, I think Pollard and them boys get another chance. Ultimate Sharpshooter saying the big one big change of the team is the absence of Willie Leroux. W says, unfortunately for JL, his chance is gone. At some point, Hanekom and Alo will be available for number 8. The Nkubis Visa at second row for depth. 7-year wait for test continues. Josh was saying, Vincent Tuka, I wanted him in the team. And Ultimate Sharpshooter reckons surely Morne gets his start next week. King Power reckons Mpimpy is likely for experience, like Willie Leroux may not even play. And Double says, I'll be annoyed if Bongi gets time over Marnus. Evan says, Bongi likely to get a chance to prove himself for the Northern Tour. Ray reckons that Quan Horn will definitely be on standby, 100%. Kid Senecal says, reckon Quan would have been in the squad if he weren't involved in the Currie Cup final. Well, he could still go. I think they're only meeting up on Sunday, or or gathering on Sunday to start preparations on Monday. So in theory, he still could, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does. For example, I think that he does get involved in that. So Evan says, happy, yes, but would be happy with Tuka, another 8, Van Heerden and Horn added in. Tyler Hale saying, Pimpy might get a start in Durban on his home ground as a potential last start for him, and then see him being phased out. He's still playing at a high level, but don't see him making 2027. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think he will make 2027, to be honest. So that is a legitimate concern. And that's why, as much as I love the man and I love what he's done for us, and we owe him so much. I mean, he scored our first ever try in a Rugby World Cup final. I just don't see him making the next World Cup. And as a result, kind of give us opportunities to Neville van der Merwe, give us opportunities to an Ethan Hooker and the likes of that. So MC Dizzle says that I would like to see Horn and Vince to be included, but this is so I can't complain. And Mass123 says, I think at the end of the year, tour squad might look different. I don't think it actually will. And I'll tell you why. So I've done, a couple of years ago, I went back and looked at all the historic end-of-year squads, mid-year squads, what Rusty Rasmus tends to do. We don't tend to experiment at end-of-year squads. We might more this year because we've got an additional test. We've got a Japan and we've got 5 tests. So we might take a bit of a bigger squad. We might look at taking like a 36-man squad over, maybe even a 40-man squad. But in general, before and previously, even for example, like the likes of last year, we didn't see a case of taking younger players and a highly rotated squad. We generally took the tried and tested players and kind of try to go out and get results. Look, last year was maybe slightly different. I think slightly better opposition. We had Scotland, England. We didn't play Ireland last year. Scotland was a Grand Slam. Scotland, England, Wales, and Italy, I think. Was it? Yeah. Didn't play France last year. Didn't play Ireland. So yeah, and even then we didn't take a particularly rotated squad, despite maybe playing a weaker version of a tour that we got this year, for example, which is much better. So Akari, to answer your question, is the squad for the 2 Argentina tests. And, well, it's the squad for the first test. And then they will be basically reducing down to a 30-man squad, or up to a 30-man squad to go over to London for... They might actually take more, to be fair, if we win next weekend, for example, and we might be winning the Rugby Championship in London, because I think there's a bit more incentive to have the players there to celebrate with the trophy. Hensel says, not happy with the squad, needed to pull 2-3 young guys in, even if it's just to be around the squad. Well, I think there are young guys, in fairness. I mean, new people to the squad that weren't playing a year ago. Bowen Fenter, look at how much of a role he suddenly had in the squad. Jan Vessels is a young player. Marnus van der Merwe is a new player in the squad. Ruan Nokia is still a young player in the squad. If we look at the backs, you've got a Morning van den Berg who's new in the squad. Sash van Magomazulu, Ethan Hooker. Kenny Moody's still young, and so I think that, again, I think that maybe there's 2 or 3 players you could bring out. You could leave out Maxima Pimpy, bring in Edel van der Merwe, or a Quine Horn, for example. I think would be a good chat. You could leave out could probably leave out a Bongi Manani, but for who? I don't think there are that many hookers who are banging the door down at the moment. So I think but you could probably leave him out and bring in a Vincent Tuka, for example. That for me would be a decent decision to make, because we've got 3 hookers in the form of Minus van der Merwe, Malcolm Marks, and Janendri Vessels, which means you don't necessarily need to have a Bongi Manambi in the squad. But I think it's very interesting to see how this is all starting to shape up, to be honest. And at the end of the day, also, I think what for me would have been interesting is, had we lost that second test, how much would this have changed? How much would we have gone, well, the Rugby Championship is gone, let's play some youngsters, let's bring some new faces and let's try and build? Or would they have gone, oh, sure, but we have to go basically try and win these last 2 games, otherwise we're going to get sacked, for example. But the fact that we did win that test means that at this stage, we are very much in the running to win the Rugby Championship. And as a result, we've picked a squad to retain the title, in Rassie Erasmus's words. This is not a squad to just go and play 2-10. This is a squad to go and win the Rugby Championship. And I think we'll probably see 2 very strong sides going out against Argentina to try and get this. Jerome says, infuse young guys into the group. Evan says, think some minor experimentation opportunities against Italy, Wales, and Japan. Well, I think against Japan and Wales in particular, or maybe even look at Wales and Italy in particular, you'll be able to rotate. We've obviously got the 2, and the tour set up so nicely in terms of Japan, then I think it's France, then I think it's Italy, and then I think it's Ireland, or Ireland and France swap. It's one of those 2. But we basically go a tier 2 nation, tier 1, or top 4 nation, tier 2 nation, top 2 nation. So we've kind of got the opportunity to almost sort of rotate strong team, and then you can basically do what you want with the final game, which I'm 99% sure is Wales. So we can really, really change up our squad at the end of the year. So it's a really good position to be in. But I think that the main thing, our goal for the next 2 games is not necessarily squad building. I think that for these 2 games, it's about winning. You got to go and beat Argentina twice, hopefully with a bonus point twice, and win the Rugby Championship. We win with a bonus point next week, for example, and either Australia or New Zealand win without a bonus point, we will be at least tied at the top of the log. And that's where we want to be. And that means that we go to London, for example, with our fate in our own hands, and a bonus point win with a decent margin ensures the Rugby Championship title. And that's got to be the objective at this stage. I don't care about rotation in these next 2 tests. We can rotate against Wales, we can rotate against Italy, we can rotate against Japan, as far as I'm concerned. These next 2 tests have almost become the most important 2 tests of the year. Obviously, you've got Ireland, obviously, you've got France. But we win these next 2 tests with bonus points, for example, we get a trophy. And I'm a big fan of chasing the trophies. We've always been really bad at not winning enough trophies in between World Cup cycles. This has been better because we've won the World Cup in 2023. We won the Rugby Championship in 2024. If you go and win the Rugby Championship in 2025, then that means if we go look at 2020, 2019 onwards, you've won 3 Rugby Championships, a British and Irish Lions series, and 2 World Cups in a 6-year period. So that is essentially 6 trophies in 6 years and 6 major honors. That is a really, really good period. Then we could talk about this being possibly the greatest sort of period of Springbok rugby, because we're seeing actual trophies and not just previously where we kind of won a rugby championship here and there. But even beyond that, we've got the Freedom Cup and we've retained the Freedom Cup. Getting the Nelson Mandela Shield and winning stuff like that. There's a trophy against Argentina. Even those sort of small minor trophies, for example, are important. It's important to learn to win games that mean something. And we've been doing that. And then next year, we've obviously got the greatest rivalry tour, which I assume will be contested for the Freedom Cup. And we've got 4 tests next year against the All Blacks. How cool is that? 4 tests against the All Blacks. So next year, we've got an opportunity to really ramp up our World Cup preparations by playing and trying out certain tactics against one of the best teams in the world for 4 tests. And that doesn't, and we don't even know who's going to come in mid-year. if I had to hazard a guess, I reckon Scotland's a decent shout. We haven't had them in a while. We haven't had France in a while, but we don't really want France. They don't really send their best players down in mid-year. We've obviously had Ireland recently. We've had Wales recently. We haven't had England in a while. So I think we're going to see either an England or Scotland incoming series, or else we'll see a sort of Fiji, Japan, Samoa type of thing, which wouldn't be great. I'm really hoping Scotland for me, Scotland and England. An England series would be really good because we haven't had them in a while, and they're getting their act together. So I think Scotland and England will be a really cool series, incoming series next year. I really hope we don't have another Wales series, for example. We're not going to get another Ireland series, and I don't foresee a French series. Maybe we might see a French series, but I'd be surprised, in all honesty. Going to some of the comments again. Adrian said, I don't like the squad because Krappies and Hooker is allowed to learn on the road with the squad. I would like to see Troki, Ruan Fent, or Renzo also gradually being exposed to the system. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that Renzo du Plessis, somebody they've mentioned, they want to get involved. But I think he might go at the end of the year tour, to be honest. They've spoken about the fact they really want him to get an opportunity and to get a cap. Because that's somebody that they obviously rate. He's had a great Currie Cup as well. But he is a bit of a Currie Cup specialist of Renzo du Plessis, isn't he? Didn't have the strongest URC campaign. In fact, JC Pretorius was keeping him on the bench. And fair. I mean, I never really had a problem with the fact that JC Pretorius was being back because he had the most turnovers. I think he won some of the most turnovers in the URC. So, but yeah, there are certain players who I think obviously could be added to the squad. But I think there's time. And I think it's a big URC campaign coming up for Quine Horn, Ruan Venter, a big championship season coming for Toki van Jean Augustus. Because it's now or never, really, in terms of that 2027 World Cup selection. Vince Tuka, for example, he starts winning man of the match performances week in, week out at URC level. It becomes difficult to leave out. Evan Lewis, I think, as well. Although I do think he's had his opportunities in the squad, and he's just never really been able to take them and been able to force himself to be a big part of that squad. So it's an interesting situation. I don't know what to say about the Evan Lewis situation. I keep saying that. I just think that whatever reason, I just don't think they rate him particularly highly, and that's the reason why he hasn't played all these games, despite being one of the top performance players of the last few years, one of the top South African players. In fact, in the first year of the URC, he was the URC player of the season in South Africa. So it's a lot of speculation with regards to what he's done. K3S, Scotland was supposed to be an SA in 2020. Yeah, so we're overdue a Scotland tour. I'd love a Scotland tour, and I will leave you for a watch along because I've never watched Finn Russell live, because I had food poisoning during the World Cup and I couldn't get there, and it was one of the most heartbreaking moments of my life. I couldn't get to the Scotland versus Ireland game. So I will go to a Scotland game next year if they come. I don't care where it is, I'm going. I have to see Finn Russell play it in my lifetime. I have to see it happen. Russell Pollard says, we do need to build more depth at tight head lock. Can't just rely on Archie and Eben, who are generational talents. There needs to be someone stepping up to the plate. Well, interesting was the fact that Ananto was quite disappointing, got injured, because Lourdes Diaga starting there over the weekend would have been an interesting experiment, because if he had coped and he had done a very good job there, then maybe we'd have a bit more of a relaxed situation. Salman Murat is the other option there, as well as a Kubus Visa. Both of them, I don't think, have really taken an opportunity. Look, Kubus Visa, I don't actually think he's ever started in the number 4 jersey, but he is a big option there. And Sensible Tom Fully says, not to mention the Qatar Airways Cup. Oh yeah, I mean that is and I mean nobody else has ever won the Qatar Airways Cup. That is basically just nickname it the Springbok Cup, because no one's ever won it yet besides us. Can't forget it. Evan was earlier saying, think the current squad contains the spine of the 2027 squad. Good age balance that will be improved upon between now and then. Yeah, it is a good age balance because, again, Vincent Koch, Maximo Pimpi, I don't think necessarily make it. Big question marks about a Franco Mossa, but he hasn't played that often in the last few games. I think he still has something to offer us right now, whether he'll make the next World Cup, not entirely sure. Bongi Mnimbe as well. But that, for me, the main thing is that we beat, and in the last 2 games, we didn't have Vincent Koch playing. We didn't have Bongi Mnimbe playing. We didn't have Franco Mossa playing. We didn't have a Bongi Mnimbe. So I say Bongi Mnimbe. We didn't have a Maximo Pimpi playing, for example. Now we're not going to have a Willie Leroux playing. So we are seeing the next generation come through. We're so quick to say there aren't enough youngsters, but then when we talk about the players who aren't actually involved, you actually take a step back and you almost go, oh, actually, hang on, we are actually rotating, and we are looking at new players. And this actually we are seeing a phasing out, because as I said, we're already not seeing Mapimpi with a big role. We're not seeing Abongi Manami with a big role. We're not even seeing Frans Maher because he's injured. We're not seeing Vincent Koch. We're not seeing Nava Leroux. We're not seeing who else did I mention? Franco Mostert. So that's already 6 players. Who else is injured at the moment? Now Luat Diago is going to be injured, but he has been involved. But these are players who are all big parts of Jaden Hendrickson, for example. I mean, not different generation, but he's had to be replaced by Morne van den Berg. So there are new players. I mean, if we look at that squad, the players that haven't been to a World Cup yet, or didn't play in the last World Cup, Thomas du Toit, Wilco Louw, Ruan Nokia, Marnus van der Merwe, Bowen Venter, Jan Andrew Wessels. So that's 6 forwards. So 33% of our forwards in the squad didn't go to the last World Cup. If you look at the back line, Sasha didn't go, Ethan Hooker didn't go, and Morne van den Berg didn't go. So that's 3 players that haven't been to a World Cup. And in terms of age profiles, the only players who are older, inverted commas, over there are Kobus Reinach and Maximo Mapimpi. Kobus Reinach is one of our top players. But everybody else are fine from an age profile. There's question marks maybe around a Damien De Allende and sort of maybe a Jesse Creel, Ches and Colby. But everybody else from an age profile point of view in the back line and a 5 to a point are actually fine. So I'm not worried at all. I think this whole idea that there aren't young players is a complete fantasy. We can't have 45 under 25s. This is not an under 25 team. This is a Springboks squad at the end of the day. And I genuinely do think that we are seeing a brand new look within the Springbok side. You just have to look at it holistically to see that, because there are changes and there are movements. So it's a great squad. Tokolo says, so Steve, you can't honestly believe that Finn Russell is better than Marnie. I think Finn Russell is the best fly half in the world. Yeah, I'll stand by that, actually. Who's better? Romain Intermac on his day. Pollard on his day, maybe. Bowden Barrett maybe on his day. I still think he's the best fly half in the world. I think he's so talented. And I think he's such a fun player to watch. Look, Marlon's my boy. I'm gonna back Let Liebach cook. And they must play against each other. But he's always been a cult hero of mine. I've loved Finn Russell for years and years as a player. So I'm desperate to go and see him play live. Sensible Tom Fulu says, yeah, I agree with you, Steve. Even though I understand the need to build depth, we can't keep using that as an excuse when we don't win TRC, Freedom Cup, etc. 100% on the same page there. I hate the concept of losing games, but we're building depth, because you can do both. And to be fair, this year we kind of have done both. We've only lost 2 games. I think we need to be very clear about that. And we were all very down in the dumps after that Wallabies loss and then the New Zealand loss. But it's amazing how that New Zealand victory has just added a whole new perspective to our season. We're still operating at an 80% win rate, for example. So you share the squad on the socials here. Right, there we go. Hensel says, young guys you're naming is not new in the squad. Moody is young but been around for 2+ years. Well, that doesn't make him not young anymore. So when you say you want new players, we must now replace Caden with somebody else because he's been in the squad. There's a completely different concept between young players and new players. We don't need new players necessarily. We're not going to replace Caden Moody because he's been in the squad. It's about an age profile. It's about who's going to be at the next World Cup. And Kanan Moody is 22 years old. So he is still a young player. Regardless of the fact that he's a World Cup winner, he's still a young player. So if you still look at an age profile, our age profile, by the way, for that first test against the All Blacks, our average age was 29 and a half, if you want to get specific. So it's 29 and a half. That's not old. In fact, going into a World Cup final, that's almost exactly the age profile you want. A week later, I think we were 28 almost. I think almost 28 in the dot. Might have been slightly younger. But could have been 27, actually, to be fair. But the All Blacks, for example, that beat us in that first test, they were 28.5. So they weren't like massively younger than us. So we must be careful with obsessing too much about young players. And again, you look at, for example, the performance over the weekend and look at some of your best players. Yes, Damian Willemse. But I mean, Damian Willemse is 27. Or he's 28 even? Trying to work out if he's younger than me or if he's my age. Because I was watching him at 29. I'm pretty sure he's my age. He's older than me. In fact, he's 2 years old. No, he's younger than me. Huh? Yeah. Oh, he's 2 years younger than me. Oh, that's depressing. Why do I keep thinking? The problem is, in my mind, I'm still 27. So he's 27. So I'm right in saying he's 27. I just forgot that I'm not 27. This sucks. I want to go back to being 27. Just Rock Up says, do you think there's going to be a change for starting 15 against Argies? There'll always be changes. With Rassie Erasmus, there'll always be changes with this side. But yeah, that's my main point, for example. Like Damian Willemse is 27 years old. He's still got potentially a decade ahead of him, maybe. At least 5 or 6 years of Springbok rugby ahead of him. So it's not like we have to replace him. You know, Jason Colby's the same age as Jesse Creel, I'm pretty sure. No one's talking about replacing Jason Colby and saying he's not going to be at the next World Cup. So therefore, you shouldn't be saying the same thing about Jesse Creel. On form, maybe, but not on age. And that, for me, is also a big, big thing that we don't talk about. There's a difference between age and form. If you're not playing well, then there's a call and there's merit to drop you. If you're not playing well and your age profile doesn't suit you, there's less incentive to stick by you. But for example, like Kane Moody, even when he's had a couple of tough games, you're looking at him thinking, yes, but he's 22 years old. You know, there's such a good player there, and if we could just keep working with him, he can become world class for years and years and years. He's a generational talent, so it's worth the risk. For example, you're probably not going to make that risk with a 34-year-old, 35-year-old who's playing terribly. You're just going to say, like a Velu maybe, they had a really bad game last time. Now he's not playing. Now he's not picked. I think he will play again, but again, we're sort of seeing that's a big decision, for example. Shout out to Tokolosh, who has sent a donation. Big thank you very much. So let's hit our goal. And I think it's registered. It's not registering on my side, but I'm pretty sure it has registered. Yeah, we're trying to get more of these lives. They're very cool. But yeah, so a big shout out to all of you guys, all the people that become members, all the people that send super chats. It's really, really appreciated. I don't think you guys realize how far it goes. In fact, we actually had a planning meeting this past week about a few things, and one of the big things we mentioned was Project 2027, the fact that we need to start sorting ourselves out for the World Cup, which is all of a sudden in 2 years' time, and obviously we want to try and go there so that we can give you guys things. I mean, like for example, we were the only ones sending out and doing the Rassie Erasmus team announcement press conferences, for example, and the midweek press conferences. So if we don't go in 2027, you might be able to get that. So things like super chats really do help us make sure that even if we don't go, we get a team on the ground over there. So big shout out to everyone that sent out, and big shout out to Tokolosh who's sending out that one today. And Sensible Tom Fullery says, yeah, it's crazy how we're now in the driving seat of the championship after that one game, backing the boys to do it. Lance Stroll, get on my chat. Says nerves for the lineouts and scrums with Bongi and Koch. Well, assuming they even play, to be fair. Contender, here we go. I actually haven't read it, but Contender coming in with the wild selections as he does, saying, what about having a Sharks wing combo of Mapimpi and Hooker, shifting Colby to fullback, maybe giving more space to operate will allow for more play, otherwise putting Hooker at 12, Willemse 15. Not your most outrageous shafts there, Contender, but I actually don't mind it. The big thing is that Ethan Hooker, I don't think, is really at 14. Hasn't really played much rugby at 14, nor has Mapimpi. So you kind of got two number 11s. Look, Hooker can play at 12 and 13, so maybe at 12 and Willemse at 15, although I think Rassie Erasmus views him more as a 13 than a 12. That's what he has said previously in a press conference. But yeah, it is a much bigger... more likelihood of that kind of second selection rather than the first one itself. So yeah, it's really annoying that I think YouTube's a bit broken, to be honest, because it's not showing me what the poll results are. So if I end it, will it show? Let's find out, because at the moment it says 0 votes, and I'll be very surprised if yeah, here we go, there were 250 votes, 88% saying yes, saying not a fan of Lance Stroll. No, well, you know, the man doesn't know how to drive. So imagine it was the actual Lance Stroll. Imagine the poor chap is trying to like take his mind off the Grand Prix this weekend and the fact he's going to crash out in Q1 again, decides to jump in with a bit of Springbok. Maybe he's a massive undercover Springbok fan. And then all of a sudden we're just abusing him in the comments. And he's back saying, shouldn't we try to keep this Tony Ball going with these inconsistent team selections, match changes each game? How can we keep momentum with this play style? Well, why don't we see? Why don't we see? Alice says, didn't Ethan move to right wing on weekend when Grant went to wing? He did. He did. We had to adjust. And he coped, in fairness. But again, that was a bit of a needs must situation. Just like he hasn't played there often. He could do it. Maybe he could do it. I mean, to be fair, I was surprised that he played at the wing. I thought they would have. They talked about him being more of a centre than anything else. So it is a surprise for me initially that they actually backed him on the wing. So yeah, no, he did move across, and again because Grant Williams had to go. We had to move. I mean, everything had to change, didn't it? We had Damien Williams started at 12, finished at 15. Grant Williams came onto the wing. Ethan Hooker started 11, moved to the wing. By the end of it, I think the only person that was playing, there were only 2 players who were playing in the same position that they started the game in the back line. And that was Kobus Radach and Kenan Moody. Everybody else shifted at some stage or came off. Pretty wild, actually. And so, yeah, we're gonna rock up. We're gonna basically wrap up there. It's been a nice chat, and I've been enjoying the morning live stream. So let me actually do the poll, last poll here. And I'm going to do the ones that I can commit to be honest, because the evenings just are a problem. So I'm going to ask you guys, what are you guys' preference for the live shows? I did ask a couple people, and they did say that mornings were an option. Lunchtime show. Yeah, I can't really commit to evenings because I've got so many other things happening in my administration capacity that I can't commit to them doing them regularly. With these morning shows, for example, I mean, this is the 3rd time we've been doing a morning show. I delayed it for an hour because we were expecting the squad announcement. Otherwise, we would have been live at 9:30. I've been quite enjoying the 9:30 slot. It's quite nice. I wake up, I go for a run, get some work done, whack on the show, chat to the buggers. And then I got the rest of the day. So I'm quite enjoying the morning shows. Late morning show will be kind of this time. You're sort of 10 o'clock, I suppose. 10 kind of vibes. So maybe this is the golden hour. Go and vote in the poll. Let me know. I tend to like the morning shows better. I think that's kind of working for us a bit better. Vody says, no Monkey Boy today. So he actually was there. He said it was a weak squad earlier. But I love the fact that we're now starting to get, and this is why this is why I love the live shows. We can really start to build a community and chat about what people said the other day and stuff. Also, if you'd like to become a moderator for the channel, please email this address: mail. Yeah, we need some more mods in our life to help get the chat going. For example, ask some questions, monitor the chat, especially during match day when things get very, very hectic. So please do, if you are a constant appearer on the channel and you'd like to get involved in the channel, please do send that mail. We just, I mean, if we can get a bit of a team of mods just to coordinate some live streams and ask questions and make sure that everything in the chat is running smoothly and there's no abuse or anything like that. It's obviously quite difficult for me being one person to sort of check what's going on there. And so some moderators will be highly appreciated. So I know a lot of you guys do come in here quite often. I'm not saying that all of a sudden you have to sign up and go to every single live stream, but a lot of you guys are on here anyway. So it just means we can make you a moderator, and it means that you guys can help run the conversation. And also if there are any dodgy things happening, you can kind of cut that out as well. So yeah, keep voting on the poll for the live show. I'm seeing that late morning show maybe, and I don't know what late morning is. I mean, 10 like this time. Are we saying this time is the golden hour? Because I'm very happy to do a 10 show. That works for me quite nicely. So maybe that seems to be the thing. I suppose maybe people can get into work, they can do their own work, and then they can know at 10 we chat rugby. And we'll be keeping doing this during the URC as well. There's a lot more to chat about than just the Springboks. Obviously, that kind of dominates our our lives and our rhetoric and the likes of that. But URC's coming up. Lots to talk about with regards to that. We're going to be kind of building up to it next week. Can the Lions finally get to a URC playoff? You know, that shape is, they have to. My mental health requires it. But we're going to win the Currie Cup on Saturday. So life is good. Life is good. There was something else I wanted to chat about the squad, and I can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. In terms of the weekend, so obviously we're going to have the Currie Cup, but we're going to have it on Monday's show in terms of predicting the team. But hopefully by Friday or Saturday, those of you who have been around have been using my picks a little bit, I hope. But we want to do a big push for your team predictions. And basically, the entire system means you can go and select your starting 15. We're still on a bench at the moment. That's becoming very complicated. But at the moment, you can go and predict your starting 15. And you can share it with your friends. You can download it, you can share it, and you can predict the side. So we want to try and see if we can get 100 people to predict their teams. We'll be dropping the link. Obviously, now we've got a squad. We can put it all together. We'll wait until Thursday to finalize exactly who's going to be in that squad, because there might be a couple of additions, apparently. That's what they said. They said they're going to assess a few people, and then there might be a few additions. But we want to try and see, can we get over 100 people to predict their Springboks side. And again, you get to download it. You can share it with your mates, for example. And we can really sort of start to see what everybody has to say and what all the chat is. Matt says, I always feel that we play better when Sia is captain. Yeah, I think there's a lot to that, to be fair. And I do think that it's been really good that we have seen him. We've seen other options, for example, and I think it's always a big learning curve and kind of understanding who your options are and stuff like that. I think people are being a bit critical, overly critical on Jesse Creel and the way in that first test. I think there's a lot more than just his captaincy, for example, that was the issue on the day. I also think suggesting that he's not a leader, for example, and he's not a potential captain, are quite off the mark. He's been around the block. He's known everything. If you meet him, if you know people, the way they speak about him, for example, very highly respected member of the squad. But it's good to go at the leadership group, you know, to make sure people understand what their roles are, that they have these roles. And yeah, so we're going to wrap it up there, people. Thank you very much. As I said, please do mail us if you are interested in becoming a moderator and joining the team, for example. We want to have more of you guys involved in the channel. At the end of the day, we had the tagline almost 10 years ago now, where we said, for the fans, by the fans. And all of a sudden, lots of people seem to have that tagline. But anyway, so yeah, this channel is for you guys. It is your channel at the end of the day, really, in terms of deciding what kind of content we do and stuff. So please do mail us if you're interested in becoming a moderator. Let us know what your name is, your username is. And we're probably going to create a bit of a Discord group. And we're going to work it all out there so that we can really grow this community. Because we are coming up to 100,000 subscribers, people. We are less than 4,500 away. We could get there within this month. Unlikely, but we're definitely going to get there this year, which is going to be exciting. So please do smash the like on the way out. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you guys all probably tomorrow morning for another live stream. We might not do it on Friday, but we'll definitely do at least 3 to 4 a week moving forward. And you guys know where to find me.